pending project.
They can sell them real quick.
Right.
So, you know, and that's all a function of drugs. It's all a function, so.
Litchfield
All
has a
right,
ton of
I would like to
problems
call
with,
the meeting to order. This is the
Oh, I bet
Litchfield
they-
Budget Committee
it's-
meeting of
look at the
November
location, the
19th.
demographics of the
And if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good luck. Good luck. If I can help you, let me know.
Will do.
All right, public input. I don't see anybody in the audience, so I'm going to assume that we don't have anybody. Reviews and additions to the agenda. We don't have a current estimate of the tax rate, but we do have the sheet from when the tax rate was set a couple weeks ago. So if anybody has any questions on that, that'll just be what that agenda item is about, just if anybody has questions or comments about the current tax rate and it's being set. Other than that, I don't have any changes. Bill, you look like
We're
you...
going to get the school revenue projections in tonight?
I was told that we would get school revenue projections tonight. Is that correct?
That's great.
At what point are we going to get them?
Let's make a
I'd sort of like
specific...
to see them before we start voting on anything.
Before we voted on items,
Be nice to know where we're going.
we can take that up first. So we'll stick to revenue. First, before budget committee action.
Before,
Yep, before budget committee action.
okay.
Anything else?
Oh, it's not that, it's this.
All right, yes, we have an event going on tonight at the high school, so it might be a little noisy, but that's all right. Correspondence. We had, this week, district financial report and updated, current month's enrollment. We had our draft minutes and I think that's it. I think that's it. Not as busy this week as past weeks. All right, we do have a set of minutes from last week. However, they're 20 pages long. I did not get a chance to go through them. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to. Do we want to tackle them tonight? Do we want to hold off and do them next meeting, which will actually be in 2 weeks?
I haven't looked at them.
Okay, so we'll delay those until our first meeting in December. All right, so moving fast. We will then, that brings us up to school district, and the first item then will be revenue projections.
Thank you, Chair. I will provide you with a PowerPoint presentation if you would give me approximately, I think, 10 minutes to go through it. And I'd like to give some highlights to the revenue as I did last night to the school board, to give you some indication as to how we derived and what exactly we did.
And after the fact, would we be able to get a copy?
They
So
will be on the school district website.
Okay.
They already are.
They already are.
Oh, okay.
In fact, if you wanted to follow along, they should be there right
Right
now.
on the home page.
Okay.
I love it when I have the IT director next to me. It looks like that.
The leveling mechanism is the cap.
Yeah, unfortunately, right? Sit on this side.
Welcome
Hi.
to the dark side.
The dark side.
I am
No, just kidding.
Everyone see that okay? And again, this is kind of some background review of taking a tour a little bit, if you will, of 2011, 2015, some of the actual revenues that the district brought in. Some of the factors that are impacting the forecast for the 2017 revenue, the actual revenue projections, and some of the potential impact on the tax rate. This, and I apologize, the color in this isn't very good, but going left to right from 2011 through 2015, the first column each year is local revenue, the middle column is state revenue, and the rightmost column for each year is federal revenue. As you can see, the trend line for state revenue is trending down. That, the major impact of that, you'll see in a few moments as to what's causing that trend line to go down for state revenue. Through the years, we've had great fluctuation in unanticipated revenue. Unanticipated revenue is a local revenue, typically difficult to budget. It's not uncommon that the slight amount of revenue that does come in for that, you'll see that in 2011, is mostly for the rental of school facilities. A group from the outside is looking to rent the gym for an evening or for the winter. That sort of revenue, that's local revenue, that goes into the unanticipated, or we kind of budget for that. The spikes in 2012, 13, and 14 primarily was due to this, our insurer, local government center, LGC, had, if you recall, was embattled in a lawsuit for overcharging participating districts, and the agreement was that they would pay the districts, if you will, a surplus. They would pay out of the surplus in funds. So that's the spike of 2012, 13, 14. We never knew how much we were getting, but when it came in, it went to other local revenue sources. Again, if anybody has questions, please speak up. One of the other factors, this is a federal source of funds. It's Medicaid reimbursement. Medicaid reimbursement is services that the district provides to students that are on an IEP that are Medicaid eligible reimbursable. And as you can see, auditory counseling, nursing, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and so on. Those services that we provide to the student as described and required under their IEP, some of those services, the family's eligible for Medicaid, we actually will bill Medicaid and seek reimbursement and are given reimbursement for those services. Again, as you can see, 2011 to 2015, there's great fluctuation in that as well. It's very difficult to predict because it is dependent upon the students that we're anticipating may be here and may be eligible for Medicaid reimbursement. Cat aid. This is those similar students on IEPs that the district has expenses that exceed 3.5 times the estimated state average per pupil. So those are extraordinary expenses. Not to say it's typical, but a lot of those expenses would be associated with students that are out of district placed in residential schools. The state will reimburse our expenses, again, that exceed the 3.5 times the estimated state average per pupil. Again, very difficult to forecast for a number of reasons. First is you could forecast the revenue coming in, and that student may move out of district. Students may move in district that we didn't anticipate, that we would have extraordinary expenses that we would seek reimbursement from the state. And also the state has not fully funded the obligation under Cat aid, so we get a percentage of what we anticipate receiving back. But again, as you can see, this fluctuates all over from 2011 to 2015. There was a spike in 2011, then there was a drop, and then there was a gradual incline, and then it dropped again in 2015.
Can I just double check? And this is delayed as well. A year, 2 years?
This would, yeah, correct. This would be, we received the funds September, October. For instance, this year, we would have received September, October for our expenses from last year.
Okay.
So it's our school year expenses. We submit to the state by, I believe it's July, sometime in July is the deadline for us to submit seeking the reimbursement under Cat aid, and the check comes from the state after they certify our expenses.
So we would have a pretty good idea at this time of the year what our expenses were last year, so we could pretty accurately predict the coming year, what we'd get reimbursed?
If that population were to remain the same,
Well, we've already spent it, I think is what you're saying.
right?
So they don't have to stay in our district in order, if we've expended the funds. And
This is for 2017, this would be then for this year. So again, to the
Right.
extent that we would be able to predict what those expenses
Right.
are
I
and what
see. Yep.
percentage the state will reimburse us for those expenses, again, this is one of those, I believe the rate last year was around 72% of our submission.
Okay.
So for every dollar that we were eligible to receive back, we received 72 cents.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
And just as a point, this doesn't even kick in until we expend around the mid-50s. And it's not a full reimbursement. I believe it's like
Right.
Frank was saying, I think it could be as low as 60%
Right.
threshold on the sheet.
Right. Okay. School building aid, I told the school board last night, this is my attempt to put in some graphics to PowerPoint. But as you know, we retired the obligation of the bond in the district last year. Principal and interest was completely paid off for the building of Campbell High School. With that, however, the state's portion of their aid or their reimbursement back to the district for their cost sharing of the, was paid out over time as well. This year, as you can see, the last payment, it's a residual payment that typically completes the year following the bond retirement. That dropped down to about $164,000, I believe, in 2017. Obviously, that reimbursement has been completed. So the school building aid is no longer for the district. Good news, bad news. The bond's retired, but so was the income coming in from the state for the school building aid. Adequate education aid, I think that's pretty much been a topic that we've had a lot of discussion. That is probably the second largest source other than local real estate tax coming in to support the school district. And as you can see, the trend line from 2010 through 2013 was pretty consistent, over the $6 million range coming into the district. Part of the calculation, if you've ever seen the sheet from the Department of Education, there are probably 20 columns which factor into the calculation to come up with the determination as to what the district will receive for adequacy. The biggest driver, however, is ADM, average daily membership, or in other words, student enrollment. That's the number of students that come into our doors that are certified by the state throughout the school year. As you can see, adequacy aid is dropping. Again, that is, and you'll see in the next slide, it correlates to our student population as well. The projection, the Department of Education, that's their projection that have come out for, they're projecting our building aid will be a little bit over $5.4 million for 2017. This next slide, again, just shows where the trend line has gone from the adequacy education grant over the years from 2010 to our projection for 2017. And as you can see, there is a direct correlation to the overall student enrollment for the district. I told food service sales I'd slide this one in. Even though food service as a fund is self-supporting, I did want to show, and they were very proud of the fact that over the years they've been able to increase. This is representative of cash sales. It's not our state or federal reimbursement for free or reduced lunch program. This is direct sales that we sell each morning here at Campbell in our breakfast program, in all three schools for their lunch program. So as you can see, we're projecting a steady, a substantial incline, if you will, of food service sales. Projected revenue, just to overview again, school building aid is no longer going away for 2017. Medicaid reimbursement is down, and adequacy education is also down as a projection for 2017. We put this calculation in because we had some discussion at the board level as well as the budget committee last year regarding forecasting the unreserved fund balance. And I just wanted to reiterate, and I'm sure you've heard this before, that the unassigned fund balance, when it's determined after our auditors complete the year-end financial audit, we come out with what is called this unassigned fund balance. It really is a credit, if you will. But the unassigned fund balance is not solely an indication of how much we underspent our budget by. It is more than that. It's a calculation of not only what we underspent our appropriation of the amount of money we were given to run the district, it is also how much revenue we received over our projection. So to say that the unassigned fund balance is representative of the amount that the district underspent its budget is not an accurate statement, and you'll see in the illustration of the next slide. 2013, the school district had an unassigned fund balance of over $325,000. The comparative to the left is our revenue. We projected X amount of dollars coming in, a little under $19.2 million of revenue coming into the district. And as you can see by the slide, we actually a little under $19,450,000. So we received in excess of $245,000 more than we had projected. On the appropriation side, or how much money did we spend, we actually underspent the budget by a little under $80,000. That number represents less than 1% of the total appropriation that we received as a district. So to say that we underspent our budget by $325,000 is inaccurate. We actually received the greatest amount of that unassigned fund balance came in the form of the projected revenue came in much higher. The actual did than the projected. It's just a little quick chart of where unassigned fund balance has gone over the years. The average, the 5-year average, a little over $475,000 unassigned fund balance. And the board asked last evening, unfortunately I didn't get a chance to do that today. But what I wanted to do is show in graph form what contributed to that unassigned fund balance each year, how much of an underspend did we have in our appropriations, and how much money did we receive over our projection, to give you an idea as to how that unassigned fund balance came about.
The bulk of it's sped.
I'm sorry?
The bulk of it is sped.
I don't know.
There it is.
I haven't looked at it.
You'll see.
Revenue projections for 2017, local revenue, tuition, transportation, I won't go through each line, but as you can see, there's just a marginal, we're projecting a marginal increase, and that is in the area of food service sales. Revenue from state sources, see the 166, 287 reduction is the school building aid, and we're projecting a little bit of a downswing, if you will, of catastrophic aid in the forecast. Revenue from federal sources, Medicaid reimbursement. Medicaid reimbursement, the rules have changed a little bit. Actually, they've changed quite a bit. So what was once in the past years eligible for reimbursement from Medicaid, to give you an example of that, excuse me, we used to be able to claim transportation of students that we were transporting that were Medicaid eligible. That transportation is only an eligible deduction and reimbursable for Medicaid if that student is traveling to receive a service that is eligible under Medicaid. So there has to be two things that need to happen: the transportation as well as service provided on that same day. The sum total of all of this, we're looking at approximately a $156,000 reduction of state and local and federal revenue coming into the district. Adequacy education grant, our state aid coming in from the state, based on the numbers that the DOE is projecting, we're looking at approximately a $246,000 reduction as well. So all revenue coming into the district, which last year, excuse me, projection, and this year, we're looking at approximately a $400,000 reduction of revenue. I'm going to pause. If there's any questions. When I put this together, this was my ode to Bill, put in the $200,000 unanticipated fund balance, because he and I had a lively discussion last year, so I relented and put in 200, but as you can see from the previous slide, the district does average You know, again, that is a credit to offset the next year local tax obligations. So I did put in 200. If we were to go with trends, you know, the district does have a history of an unfunded balance, unassigned fund balance coming in to credit off and to offset the tax obligation.
Yeah, the discussion we had last year was really to try to better represent to the voters what the impact on the tax rate was going to be.
Right.
And by not including any of this fund balance in there, it was really overstating what the impact was going to be.
That's right.
My position was, it's whatever the school board wants to do.
Right.
And if the school board feels 200 is too low and wants to make it another number, then
Right.
I'm fine with that. It's whatever you guys want to do.
I think in concept we agreed. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that, but I didn't want to, on the other hand, I want to make sure that everyone understands that that is a major portion when we forecast tax rate, is we have to look at unassigned fund balance
Yeah.
as well. 200, but if you look at trend lines, and you saw 475,000 is the average over a 5-year trend, you know, we could conceivably double up that figure and say we're going to anticipate. Then that puts pressure on your BA and superintendent to make sure we manage the budget to that number. But we've done a pretty good job at that, I think, in the past.
Yeah.
Just, again, a forecast of the tax consequence of all this. Again, the food service fund and the federal funds is typically, we forecast the revenue coming in dollar for dollar, so there's no tax impact on that. Excuse me, on the general fund, again, with the reduction forecast of the education grant, and again, adding in the $200,000 for the unassigned fund balance, the estimated, total estimated local tax would be almost a little under $13 million, which would have approximately $1.65 per thousand tax impact.
Yeah. Now, you use the current valuation
I did.
for that tax rate,
I did.
and I assume that Troy is trying to come up with a number that we all might agree on.
Right.
And if you do that, then your number is probably going to be something more like 1457,
Right.
what I would come up
Right.
with.
We're going to adjust, and again, this is
Yeah.
draft form. You know, as you know, Bill, this is a constant moving target. It's a projection, and we will look to address the issue of the unassigned fund balance if the board wishes, and so directs. We'll increase that number, and we'll also plug in the assessed value number as well.
The reason I wanted to see this was so I understood where we're going with both the town and the school budget in terms of total impact to the taxpayers.
Right.
And this particular one, it's about $500 on the, quote, average home for the school budget alone. And I don't know how the town is going to come out. We haven't really looked at that, that bottom line there, which just drives me more and more to try and say if we can't reduce the appropriation number
Right.
in the operating budget, the better off we're going to be in terms of going to voters in March.
If I may, Chair, just take 2 more minutes, because I'm pretty proud of this presentation. It's the first time, I think in a long time, I put a PowerPoint presentation together. So,
I hate them, by the way.
This is just a quick slide to show you over the years since 2009 where the local school tax rate has gone for the town of Litchfield to support the Litchfield School District budget. This is just me looking at some other towns in the contiguous to Litchfield. Take a look at what their local school, this is only their local school tax rate, not the overall tax rate. And as you can see, they slide from the leftmost down to the right being Hudson and the top being Amherst. And again, it's their local school tax rate per thousand for the support of their school district budget. This is just overall real estate taxes by comparative to that group as well. Again, the leftmost, those folks paying the per rate, the higher per rate, and then it slides down to the rightmost, which is Litchfield. This is just something that I've done in the past in my previous, taking a look at median home values and as property taxes, total property taxes as a percentage of the median home value for the district. And as you can see, since probably 2011, there was an uptick to 2012 and 13, 14. It has remained pretty constant, under 2%. So what that means is that, you know, on an annual basis, the property owners in the town of Litchfield, their tax obligation that they pay represents less than 2% of what the median home value is here in the town. What does that mean? I'm not sure. It's just something that we look at by comparison.
Yeah, given we had about $1 million fund balance in one of those years, it doesn't mean a heck of a lot.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
This is just real estate taxes as a percentage of the median home price for the, again, those contiguous towns that we looked at in our area. And again, as you can see, Litchfield is to the right, which means it's as a percentage paying less per median home value than for the leftmost, which would be Pembroke, who are paying a little under 3% of real estate. They pay approximately 3% of the real estate taxes goes to support, which is as a percentage of the median home value. So that concludes the presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And again, this is available on
Yep,
our
it is
website.
on the website. Any questions, comments?
I guess my only comments are the comparison to the other communities. I'm not quite sure what that's all supposed to mean, or as we approach the Litchfield school budget. And we're looking at the budget for our town, and how does that relate to towns around us? I guess I missed that.
Well, it gives you a comparison, that's all.
Just background information.
Whereas Nashua, you know, the communities we usually use would be Nashua, Manchester, Merrimack, Londonderry, contiguous communities to the town of Litchfield as a general rule. Pembroke and Bow are not contiguous in any way, shape, or form.
I think they are in size for us to compare to Nashua. I mean, big cities, by comparison financially. We tried to use not just contiguous, maybe let me clarify, it's contiguous and somewhat similar in district and size.
I think those are the communities we use when we look at teacher salaries and negotiation and administrative salaries, and it's like sizes, like, or similar.
With less in history.
It's pretty consistent as a comparative group that we've even used for contract negotiations, for other issues that we've looked at.
So if you were to take something out of that piece of this slide presentation, is that Litchfield is the best value out of all these towns to live in because of the lowest percentage.
That could be one assumption that you want to draw from. Yeah, sure.
So it looks as though all local, state, and federal revenue is down almost 9%. And then the increase in the tax rate, or projected, is about 12%.
How many warrants are we looking at? Because that's not going to be the end, right? There's warrants on top of that.
There could be. There could be. All right, any further comments or questions on revenue? All right, moving into, I switched the agenda around a little bit. Since we generally for budget committee action have guests in, I've put that first so that we respect our guests' time and get them out of here in a timely fashion. So I put budget committee action first, which the first one listed is technology. So if we can flip to our technology budgets.
No, you
Madam
have
Chair?
me go
No.
first.
Am I looking at it wrong?
No, you are, Madam Chair. Could I ask that we do curriculum first and technology second? Would that be okay with you?
Fine with me. Doesn't matter to anybody else. We can do curriculum first.
Should be quick.
We want to honor the lady that we have here.
Should be quick.
We also want to, just, it would be better for us to do it that way.
Alrighty then, let's start with curriculum. Page 1, I know, and we have new sheets this week, but page 1, just to start off, the whole textbook replacement. Last week, we were trying to figure out The Budget Committee funded last year just under $65,000. However, it looks like in the budget, almost about $28,000 of that was actually moved out, and the school district revised it to $62,000. However, and then it shows the approved budget is $33,000, so it's like, what did we buy? Last year, you gave us a list of different things you wanted to buy. What did we buy? What did we put off? Can you just help us understand what?
I'm going to defer to administration because that really was a result of reorganization, given the bottom line of what was voted for.
Okay.
So that was out of my purview.
So
I guess everybody's looking at me as administration, I'd be more than carry that ball. What we did was, the budget committee, just a quick overview, did make a $15,272 reduction. The administration also made close to a $31,000 reduction from that. When again, the gross appropriation of the budget came to us after vote of approval. There were priorities that were in short term needed to be funded in the budget, understanding that the internal decision, if you will, from the administrators was that $30,000, in fact, to recoup all the $30,000 in the $15,000 would be recovered through reappropriation of funds during the budget season. So we made a very high priority on when those purchases were to be made, not reflected in the district-wide line because they were made when those textbooks were purchased, and we do have Michelle was kind enough to do a spreadsheet. We'll show you where those actual expenses occurred in some of the other areas, for instance, CHS and those areas.
So what didn't we buy last year? What sets of books didn't we?
In the end,
Yeah, what the result was. In other words, what are we pushing off this year? What on here is something that was perhaps proposed last year, and that's why we see such an increase this year?
well, what we didn't fund isn't reflected here because since then there are additional priorities. Actually, the amount that I would need to fund even the highest priorities is $154,000. The kinds of things that we were able to fund, some of social studies, we were not able to fund the only thing here is advanced placement history. What doesn't appear there is economics and grade 5 social studies. So those the others would remain unfunded. In the meanwhile, we had been putting off new language arts, which is 10 years old and is a very high priority with all of the new requirements. In the last 2.5 years, the teachers have been in the situation of having to use old materials, draw on other ones, spend an enormous amount of time pulling things together to meet the new requirements. And so we owe them materials that are more appropriate. We owe the students materials that are more appropriate, that the reading levels are what our expectations are, materials that integrate the reading, writing, speaking, listening, and basic language requirements. And so this was in the forefront for this year at this point. Part of what you see here, especially for K-5, is an anticipated agreement with the company that we would have more than 1 year if the voters pay for subsequent years to pay for those program materials, the non-consumables. And then the companion language arts for 6 through 8. The year before, not last year, the year before that, we funded math for grades 6 through high school. And so we should have done all the math, but that number was prohibitive. And we paid in excess of $50,000 for those grades. And this envisions 2016, the company has agreed to 3 payments. This would and we were able to pay one of those payments this year, and this represents the second payment in that series. So it really is a matter of reprioritizing given what hasn't occurred. And I guess I'll take the opportunity to say that Just to review from last year, for those people who are new, it was only last year that we moved all of this 640 materials. That is, when we're replacing whole class grades or course materials into the district budget, rather than have those pieces in each school, which really set up kind of a competition between the buildings and the grades, who gets what every year. And it really made sense for us to consolidate it all in the district budget. That also has allowed me to negotiate with these publishers, and basically we're down to 3 major publishers. They've bought up everyone else, to negotiate, because they do compete with one another. And once we buy one product, even if it was at a lower cost, then it's like buying cars, I guess. They appreciate your return business and are able to give us much better prices. It's somewhat unusual for them to agree to 2 or 3 years to pay for these materials, but it's the only way that we've been able to balance the different subject areas. We were not able to purchase in 2011 and 2012, I think if you go back to your records, because that's when the new requirements came out of the state. So we went on a moratorium of purchasing major things. We only did minor replacements because we didn't want to buy materials that aligned to old requirements when we were facing new requirements.
So last year, you were not able to purchase all of what you had hoped to purchase, but now those have sort of taken a back burner because there are even more critical areas that need to be.
Right, except for the one history. That is correct. And the reason to rise history to that level, the AP history, is that the school board and I have a commitment to incorporate more rigorous courses, and we don't have as many advanced placement courses as we probably should, for not only the size of our school, but for the number of our students that are prepared for college and career ready.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
So we did buy the textbooks, and we have them on a 3-year payment plan, so we have money that we're going to put in this budget to pay for last year's purchases, and money that we're going to put in next year's budget to pay for last year's purchases. That's what
This year's acquisition.
This year's acquisition.
Correct.
But we're going to pay that out of future budget years?
2 years ahead. We have a
So we bought them on time, more or less.
Yes, and we have, in our contract, Frank was very specific that the contract states pending proper appropriation. And if that, and these are the portion that are consumable materials, we just would not receive in the future. And then we have closets full of old materials until they're paid and appropriations are in place. So the teachers keep asking, are we going to be able to keep these new things?
Because we bought them on time, where we would have had opportunity to maybe capitalize on some of our stuff and sell it off, that we have it in storage.
Mostly in the classrooms.
You're going no, and she's going yeah,
Yeah,
so which one is it?
No,
No,
yeah.
We have it in storage.
Yes,
We-
yeah,
be-
in the
be-
teachers'
be-
classrooms primarily, because we don't have any storage facilities, so they're boxed up in the teachers' rooms, yes.
I don't think, Ray, you're going to get much selling.
Right.
There's not
I
a
don't
big
know, I'm
market
just
for
saying,
used
you know, we-
I know in the past, we've been lucky to give them away.
One of the things is we tour the schools, and it's always a big issue, is storage.
Mhm.
Classroom cleanliness, all the
Yep.
clutter in the classrooms, that's one thing for me that I notice. And if we have things that we should be getting rid of,
Yep.
even if we send them to a third world country to help them with their programs, I mean,
Right.
if we have them just sitting here collecting dust, that makes
Yeah.
no sense.
They're not collecting dust. We actually, this past summer, I know.
You have a great cleaning crew.
I'm sorry?
You have a great cleaning crew. I take
No.
that back, they're not collecting
To address
dust.
your issue with old textbooks, Mr. Thompson, I know, went to great strides to find someone to come in, and I believe we tried to sell, we ended up.
They bought a few of
Bought a
them.
few.
Not these, though.
Right, not these,
Not
no.
what these are
This is
replacing.
the general statement.
You answered my question, we bought them on time.
Yes, yep, yep. And the language arts K-5, That's not yet purchased. This would be first payment. The Language Arts 6.8 is a one-time payment because of the amount of digital component, and we have to do some printing at the building.
So the language arts K through 5, this is the first payment, and next year there'll be an additional payment?
That would be 2 more payments after this.
Okay.
And I may be able to negotiate that number down. I've already negotiated it down by about 50,000. I should be able to take a little bit more off.
If I may, through the chair, when Dr. Heon can correct me, but when we say over time, over a 3-year period, that is not similar to a lease. This is the publisher's offer up, and we're looking at the negotiator for the Litchfield School District right here. When it comes to textbooks, she deals hard to publishers and gets the best deal for the district. Dr. Heon is very keen to get the best deal, and over time, when we make these time payments, it's at, it's not at a cost to the district, it's actually at a savings to the district if we were to outright purchase. That's a fair statement, Dr. Heon?
Yeah.
All right. Any questions or actions on page 1? Hearing nothing. Page 2. What was the district-wide staff training, 270, course reimbursement, non-union? Did we have a discussion of why that's going up?
Basically, that's for administrators.
Okay.
And we have some new hires who are trying to enrich their backgrounds for our behalf, and also because the rate at which we pay in-state tuition right now is probably more expensive than if we based it on out-of-state tuition. But that rate has gone up significantly for the same reasons our adequacy rate has decreased.
So is this something that's in their contract when they come on?
Yes. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to fulfill that at 100%, so we're trying to do a little better job with that. There is a number of courses that they can take pending availability of funding, and that hasn't been able to be fulfilled at 100%.
And I forget, do we require them to stay on afterwards for any length of time?
We do not at this time.
And that's 100% reimbursement of the course? Or?
At that rate. Most of the, I will tell you just based on our records, most of the people are taking courses elsewhere because UNH doesn't do as much online as some of the others, and for convenience, they're taking them at Riviera, Southern New Hampshire, and so forth. So in many cases, they're actually saving money by taking it at other places so they can take an additional course too. So we've tried to do some cost-saving measures altogether. Yes?
Are the courses directed by the school board in any way, or by the administration of what the classes that they take, or can they take whatever they want?
The superintendent has to approve those courses, and in some cases, they are directly related to their professional development needs, and in others, we're fortunate to have them aspire to enrich their background.
Anything else on page 2? Just a comment, GMS curriculum development, there's a CPR certification session for staff. I think there are organizations such as the Red Cross that will come in and do that for free.
They charge for each certificate,
Okay.
and we've tried to use them in the past. In fact, what we do is we give a very small stipend to our own nurses or whoever is certified to train, because they can be there right when school closes and get people to stay for 2 hours, and we've tried to have outside trainers in the past.
Okay.
But they do charge a fee, even through the Red Cross, when you order both the materials and the certificates. It's like a license or something, you have to pay a fee for each one. And because this is directly tied to our requirement that somebody is CPR certified on every out of school, whenever we take children out of the building, I was going to say trips, but there are other reasons, like playground and so forth. So this is our certified staff, but some of our para-educators also.
Right. Page 3. And hearing nothing, that's the end of curriculum.
Thank you. I'm here to support my colleague because a lot of what he's going to talk about obviously supports curriculum and instruction, so I'll just hang out.
Okay. So, now going back up to technology. Looking at page 1. So, we are not leasing any more computers.
No, earlier in the year, the school board said that they didn't want to do any more leasing or anything like that, so we made sure that we didn't do any of that going forward, other than the leases that are still up that were previous leases.
On the 650 software, the smart board for 25 licenses, does that mean we have all of the rooms covered now? I mean, this number increased from last year, so is it going to increase again, or are we covered?
Correct, so over the summer, we made sure that every classroom had a smart board, and that's why that went up to an extra 10 licenses. So now all the schools are covered.
All right, so we won't see an increase in the number of them next year?
The number, no. As long as the software doesn't get any more expensive, it should stay the same.
Okay. I had a question on 738, equipment and replacement. And I've looked at the previous trend, other than I mean, there must have been something else in there that kicked it up to the 25,000. But other than that, this number's been running less than 1,000. So I understand you level funded it. So 2014 was a high year because we must have had something in there, or something got billed differently. But the 1,500, I mean, what do we really cover in that? Because 1,500 just seems like maybe it's 1,500, maybe it's 750. There's no real number for it.
Right. So going through the classrooms and everything, some of the smart boards are older models, and we've had some repairs that we've already had to do at the beginning of the summer. So the older they get, a little bit more repairs have to be done to them. So we had to replace AC adapters, speakers, wiring harnesses and stuff like that for some of the electrical pieces.
I think just the fact you go from 10 to 25, that your expenses for repairs may go up also.
No, I understand that, but I'm also looking at the big picture.
We have, is that GMS? Yeah, GMS, we have already spent just about $1,300, so
Okay.
they've spent that this year. Anything else on page 1? Page 2?
So I'm going to have a similar question on 650. Are those rooms covered, or are there going to be further additions next year for the smart boards increasing to 21?
There might be another 2 or 3 that we potentially might add to that. There are some functional rooms where teaching takes place that doesn't currently have a projector.
Okay. On 738, last year, we had an amount for replacing a laptop cart. Did that get replaced?
That did, correct.
The reason I ask is because it shows an expenditure last year of 810, including the laptop cart. So you have to understand why I'm questioning the 1,500 amounts that get put into these, because the laptop cart alone was budgeted for more than $810.
Correct.
So when I'm looking at the big budget and I'm seeing these things, I see little areas where we've been a little conservative in budgeting that I might think globally or later might need to be addressed. That's why I'm asking about this.
Sure. No, I mean, that's understandable. I would say it's a similar thing. I don't believe that LMS has as old of smart boards, but they are getting there, the current ones that are in there. And you'll notice that they have more smart boards than GMS did. That's why we only added a few in there.
So, yeah, 4,100 budgeted amount. Oh, there it is. They've spent about 1,000 year-to-date so far. No, excuse me. That's the available, is just under 1,000 is left.
$3,000 there.
Yeah,
That-
about,
year-to-date.
yep, about $3,000 is spent right now. Yep, I'm sorry. So it would seem that that would include the cart.
Right,
They
the
have-
cart was 2,300.
Yeah,
In current fiscal year, not
Correct.
2013.
Yep,
Right.
current fiscal.
So we didn't buy it last year.
or what, this current year,
Okay.
which is the 4,100. Anything else on page 2? Page 3?
Just a question. I think at our last meeting, you said that you'd gone to and looked at conferences and travel and were making a reduction of about $50,000, if I remember correctly. Can we get detail on that at some point where it's going to take place so we understand?
There's no detail on it at this point in time. We just made a global reduction
Okay.
at some point, because it would create, we're gonna do it, it's just right now, we'd have to go in and just each line that we're gonna look at.
Yeah.
We did make a global reduction.
Could you make a revised object code or function code summary? Is that possible? Or do we know what codes, how much money you're taking out of the travel code, how much money you're taking out in total?
We took it all out of workshop at this point, just one.
All out of
just one
workshop?
line, Yeah,
Okay. And how much was it, Frank?
50,000.
50?
Yep,
Which brought it down to about the average spend.
right.
And that came out of, what, the 272 account?
The workshop, yeah,
Would that be,
Farmers workshop reimbursed 272,
yeah, would that be the only account that's affected by that?
right now,
Okay.
right. But eventually, when
In
we
total,
go
I'm
in,
saying.
and we're gonna go to every line.
But it's all out of the 272 account?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so I can go into the object code and make the $50,000 reduction?
Anything you want, but that's where you're gonna see it. And in fact, I'll give you a revised to show you that
Okay.
the workshop, the 272 came down by the 50,000.
Yeah, that's really what I'm
Is that what you want?
Yeah.
And then I'll probably give you an overall new budget of what we passed over from the recommended from the board to the budget committee, so we all have the same
Yeah.
starting figure,
Okay.
representative of that $50,000 reduction. Okay?
All right, anything else on page 3?
The software lease, 446, Adobe software increases, it really doubled.
Yeah, unfortunately, they went and they restructured their pricing, and we pleaded with them that we didn't have the funds for their change, and they gave us a break this 1 year of 6,600 instead of the 8,000. So we had to move some funds and drop a couple of other priorities to get that funding, and they said, just so you know, it's gonna be 8,000 for what you have next year. So, we had a fight for that reduction, because there was no way that we would have been able to do it.
So is it
either way.
8,000 or 9,000?
It's gonna be, 8,000. For Adobe, 9,000, I'm sorry.
I was ready to take you in right here and now.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, 9,000. But we did get it down to 6,600 for this year. And they said, just so you know, next year it's gonna be more. And the only classrooms that's even supporting are 2 of the computer labs that they use, the art lab and upstairs in the computer lab. So it's only 2 labs, and it's a significant amount of money.
And what is that? That's Adobe, but what is it?
So for the art, yeah, so they use Photoshop and Illustrator. They use things to do 3D printing and modeling.
So they have Creative Cloud.
Yeah, it's exactly, it's Creative Cloud.
Subscription?
Yeah, it's the Creative Cloud subscription, exactly.
Communists.
All right, anything else on page 3? Page 4.
On 734, what is the long-term plan? Because we have 25,000 here this year. What's the long-term?
So, unfortunately, right now, as far as technology goes, the type of storage area network that we have, we use the least expensive method to do what we need to do. So we have servers that are clustered, and, try not to get too technical, but like, for instance, we'll have like... Yeah.
He'll translate for us, don't worry.
Yeah, so we have like 30 servers running on, 30 virtual servers that are running on 3 real servers. So with that, all of those, they all need to talk to one central storage, and that's the SAN. And those can, they could start at, $40,000 for like a lower level one for the size that we need, and go all the way up to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So right now, as far as technology goes, there's really no way to go around that other than doing more cloud-based stuff, but that's a long term, and even if we do that, we still need to have a SAN of some sort.
So I see you running EqualLogic. Is this just, you're adding another bay to your EqualLogic storage?
No, yeah, for this one, that's correct. There's going to be another PS 4100. I have quotes. We upgraded one of them this year, and it came out to just shy of $25,000, give or take $100.
So will that bring us to where we need to be, or do we anticipate another one next year?
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
another one the year after that?
Yep, exactly. So it's going to be staged, and like the high school is going to need a complete overhaul eventually, because it'll no longer be supported, and the hard drives that are in there, their lifespan is gonna be depleted, and Dell won't even support it anymore. So when you replace it, you're gonna have a larger cost of, say, like $40,000-$50,000.
Yeah, I retired one this year because it was out of service. It was still running and it was still good, but they wouldn't give you support for it. Without support, it's a boat anchor.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So you're just gonna add another bay, you're adding on to your,
Yep, so another PS 4100 added onto that, and then we should be good for another few years on that until its lifespan goes.
So, but there would be another one next year also?
Yep, and then the following year, it would be the high school, and that's the big one.
and the server cluster that you're replacing, that's 3 units, 2 units?
It's gonna be 3 units, with each one's gonna have probably in the realm of 128 gigs of RAM.
You're running 30 servers on that, so you're high availability.
Correct, yeah, we use DRS and HA on those, so that's why the clustering needs to happen. We can't just replace one, because we need
Say they
those
spend all the hallway
processors to be in the same
conversation.
family and everything.
So that means that's
Sorry,
not a
guys.
bad price for those 3.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah. The only thing I would comment is, I know that we're working also on a, like with textbooks, we have a replacement cycle, and
with computers, we have to develop the same kind of a thing and give you folks a 3 to 5 year projection, because these computers have a lifespan, and along with that, we're increasing the number of different devices we're using in the district. So there's really two different trends here. That is the fact that computers don't last, technology changes, and we're also increasing the number of computers. So I think you're going to see us coming back to you on an annualized basis, asking you for more and more and more.
The nice thing would be if you could come up with a flat number and live with it.
Mhm.
You know, 500,000, whatever the number is.
Right.
Okay, so we're not bouncing up and down each year.
Right. I know Jason's looking at that, and I know that, you know, along with the capital plan that we're going to be doing, we will also be looking at a, you know, 3 to 5 year technology plan that we can then share with you, so that you'll have a better idea of what it looks like. If it's flat, it's flat. It may be that there are bumps like when we do the high school, because it's a significantly larger job than doing one of the other schools, and that would be up to Jason to really define those things.
Roll it all into one data center and begin
Frank?
Would it make sense to take it out of the budget somehow and put it into a capital reserve fund and just keep funding, to Bill's point, a capital reserve fund at a flat rate a year? And then, obviously, the school board would be the people to pull out of that and then use that for.
You know, for once, I agree with you.
Funny, Bill, that's what I was thinking. Because the server replacement generally on a 5-year basis, you should be able to get 5 years out of them, even with the way technology is moving.
But if-
Storage, on the other hand, is increasing at a huge rate. You've heard of Moore's Law? Yeah, well, it's exceeded that. I mean,
But if they
people are
develop a-
chewing up storage like it's going out of style, but that growth should be coupled with a grand management plan and managing what's sitting around in the network
Well,
and
if
who
they
it belongs to.
develop a capital reserve fund and fund it based upon a plan that details out what their rolling 5 years or whatever it's going to be is, that should be something that would keep the tax rate flat and allow them to do the equipment purchasing that they need to do, at least have in their plan.
You know, I could support a warrant article this year for that, using fund balance to pay for it.
I object. I'm sorry, I didn't mean, I was just saying that because I normally disagree with you.
Gee, I thought you guys were gonna agree on two things, and it was gonna put a red letter day out there.
No, I just think it makes sense. I mean, rather than every year you whipsawing it along what equipment you're gonna do, just put it as a capital reserve fund.
You know, I would rather do that than put more money in the maintenance reserve fund, because I think that's adequate for you right now. And this is something that's really a train wreck coming down the pipe. So I would have no problem, you know, setting a reserve fund up now.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
We actually had that exact conversation at about 2 o'clock this afternoon, talking about.
Was
you
he
know-
there?
Not that I'll admit.
The other Frank was there.
We met, you know, preparing for tonight, and we actually had that exact conversation about a capital reserve fund that would focus on technology and generating one that we could fund, and parallel that with a 3 to 5 year plan. And I think 3-year plan is probably more reasonable than a 5-year plan with technology. I don't think anybody has much vision beyond 3 years.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't necessarily wait for your technology plan.
No.
To do something
I would
this
agree
year.
with that.
Okay.
But, so I just wanted to affirm that we would be very supportive of that kind of an idea.
Can I ask more questions? These servers that you're retiring in this cluster, how old are they?
Right now, they're Generation 6 HP, so right now, they're probably like around that 4.5 year life cycle. So this time next year, it'll be a little over 5 years.
Okay. Perfect timing.
Any other questions for page 4?
531, the cell phones. I was looking at the historical, and I know it says historical data being under budget, but I don't think that it's necessarily that far under budget. Looking at between last year's and this year's, I mean, we had 3,200, 5,300, 5,200. So at no point did it come close to 7. So I'm curious as to why it's that large of an increase.
With that, I noted that I sat down with Ann when I was going over that side of things, and she pulled up some of the historical things, and what ended up happening is sometimes some things were paid for out of this, and then there's another area where when these funds got chewed up, that they had to take the lines out of. But it's still, a voice data line. So we went through the numbers and we looked at what those were, and we just plugged that in to get that 30/20 increase.
You have a motion?
Well, I mean, like I said, the maximum I saw was 5,200. I understand that you might be, if you're paying them out of different line items, that's why it's good to make sure you charge the right line so that I don't go and make a motion. But the maximum I've seen in the last 3 years is 5,300.
Mhm.
And so I make a motion to reduce it by $1,795 to bring it down to 5,200, which is definitely, it's still less than, it's within the 3-year rolling average.
The motion is for a reduction of $17.95. Is there a second?
Second.
Based on the 3-year actuals, it's a closer number. I mean, whether that's the right number or, if somebody wanted, but 7,000 to me is too high. And it seems to be a very standard number throughout the budget, so I'm gonna have that concern throughout.
And that was one I had flagged. The 2-year average is 52.12, and I figured rather than 3-year average, I just took 2 because I know, as it said, historically it's been under budget, so I wanted to just take the more recent data. Any further discussion?
May I just make one comment, Madam
Yep.
Chair? I think that, certainly we understand your point. We just want to be clear that what we're trying to do is reflect the actual expenditures in the particular line items where they occurred, not in, across the budget. So you might see that in this line item, the expenditure here, it doesn't reflect the actual amount of money the district spent for that specific function. So I just wanted to be clear on that, and that another line item would represent a reduction of monies. I couldn't tell you where that is or where, anything like that. But I think we're trying to reflect to you what we're actually expending in the particular line items. That's the only thing I want to make. Thank you for the time.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of a reduction of $1,795, which leaves $5,200 in that line, and again, that is 531 telephone, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Any abstain? So it's 6-0, it passes. Anything else on page 4? Page 5?
734, the $6,000 switch replacement, capacity increase. Is that an actual replacement or is that a placeholder? And I ask because it's the same number, same description as last year.
Sure. So, at all the schools, the switches, we try to life cycle them out, and they do need a lot of replacement at them. So switches are significantly old in certain areas. So we replace the old ones with a cluster. They're around 2,000 each, usually a clusters of 3 of them, and that's where we come up with the 6,000 after cabling and everything like that.
All right, so this would be part of like the typical life cycle cost.
Exactly, correct.
738, replacing the wireless system at GMS. We're also doing it at LMS
Correct.
and replacing the telephone system at LMS. What's the penalty if you just do one of the schools as far as the wireless is concerned next year?
Sure. So the schools have been putting in tickets and been getting a lot of emails. So in certain areas, they don't have connectivity. When they have 2 media labs, like mobile labs, next to each other, or if you have a lot of mobile devices that are close.
That's at GMS or both
At
schools?
both places.
Both schools,
Yep,
okay.
at both places. They won't be able to connect, or half of them can connect, or it might take 10, 15 minutes for them to connect because it's overloaded. All the traffic goes back to the controllers. They're older controllers, and it puts a lot of strain on them, and there's only one access point in an area, and they can only handle about 20, maybe 30 if you're lucky, devices at once. So once it gets overloaded, it has to wait till there's availability for them to connect up to them. And where they're placed, they're only good for small areas. So when they first put it in, it was more of like a coverage map, which was, okay, I can get a signal here, and I can kind of get a signal here, and that's adequate. But the way devices are and the way we roll out carts and media, it's more density. We're going to have a lot of devices here at this point in time, a lot of devices here at this point in time. So, so there are lots of issues right now. And then when it comes to testing, a lot of times the teachers have to go and bring their students to a computer lab, which normally has classes. So now the students that are testing obviously won't get their class time as scheduled, but the students that are getting kicked out of those media labs because they can't do it on mobile labs, now they lose testing. So at LMS, for instance, one of their labs, they might not be able to get teaching them for 8 weeks. So they lose 8 weeks out of a computer lab and in somewhere else where they might have less access to media, and they might have to do some other type of work, and that ends up being disruptive to the class.
Is the situation any worse at either one of the schools? Are they both the same?
Pretty much they are both the same. They were both kind of set up the exact same way. As far as one worse than the other, if I really had, they're very close, but if I had to say that if anyone was worse than the other, it would probably be LMS, just because there's more testing that goes on there. So it's a tiny bit more critical to their schooling and classroom disruptions.
Here's my problem.
Testing.
I'm looking at the...
Statewide testing, not classroom testing like a quiz type testing. You're talking about when we do the statewide assessments.
Correct.
Testing.
Correct.
And our local standardized
And
testing.
local standardized testing.
Here's my problem. When I look at the technology budget, per se, okay? That's up $171,000 over the current budget, okay? 88,000 of it is these two projects all by themselves. We're already looking at a tax impact I don't like, and somehow or other I'd like to get some money out of the budget. Now, if clearly these can't be deferred, fine. You're the people that could make that decision, whether you could defer any pieces of it or not. That's why I'm asking the question. Personally, I would have staggered the Wi-Fi one at a time. That's how we would have done it. You've chosen to do both of them next year.
So here's the interesting thing, Bill. I was looking at that. We actually funded this last year at GMS, and it was not done. So last
But I
year,
didn't realize.
we left 30,000 in last year to do this, when we approved the budget, and it was not done this year. So it
How'd they
was staggered.
get by?
I don't know what happened to it. It got reduced to $1, but in our budget last year that we finalized, we left 30,000 in there to do this project at GMS. So the school district made the decision.
School board reduction,
Last year,
yeah.
yeah. So we left 30,000 in there to do it. So I don't know what happened, but the school district chose not to do it this current year and took the money and put it somewhere else.
That makes you question the,
No, I
urgency.
No, I think it's urgent. I think it was urgent this year. But it was staggered, so now it's not staggered anymore. It's all in the same year.
Where'd the money,
Well, it might still be staggered, because if the money's left in this year, they might choose to just do one, and then it's truly staggered again. We'll get it next year.
Any idea why it wasn't done last year? Anybody?
Unfortunately, I don't.
Well, we had a different
It looks like it was done
technology director.
It was done this year.
what was done this year?
When you say the budget, you're referring, Madam Chair, this current fiscal year?
2016, we left 30,000 in. The approved budget and our budget says $1. So that project was taken and put somewhere else, and it
Right.
wasn't done in the current
And
2016
high
budget.
school.
And that
Summer.
budget line is over budget right now, 26,000 plus, because we did part of that.
We did
work.
the high school this summer.
No, she's saying GMS.
This was GMS.
Yeah, this is charged to GMS.
I'm sorry?
Phone
This
system?
is charged to GMS.
Was it 26,000?
Yeah,
That was the phone system.
26,819.
For the high school or for the GMS?
GMS.
I'm confused. If we've already done GMS, why is 27,000 in next year's budget?
We didn't put in, we didn't put wireless at GMS this year.
So that must be why LMS has two pieces to it, 34 and 27.
Yeah, this is the telephone and the,
That's the phone system at
Wireless.
GMS. that's
So they
26.
did half of the project this year. So they're asking for the other half of GMS and then the full project for LMS.
So this is for computer labs.
This is for, so for instance, we have, this would be for the whole school. So the whole school, so building-wide wireless, for mobile carts, labs, mobile devices, things that they need for learning and in classwork
But
and
if
everything.
the concern is testing, testing is on desktops that tend to be hardwired. Do we need the wireless to be critical?
There isn't enough hardwired computer labs for them to do all the testing between SBAC and any other testing that they have through the year. That's why they kick the students out that normally would have computer class, and then they don't have room, and they still have to. Then they're also using the mobile carts that they have as well for that, because they can't use all of the mobile devices throughout the school because it just bogs everything down. And this would alleviate that strain on the wireless.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
From an academic point of view, we have some requirements, some that we have control over that we've chosen to do, and some we have little to no control over. State testing is a 12-week window for 3 schools, and it's divided into windows for each school. Because the middle school test is required to test all 4 of their grades. The high school only has 1 grade, GMS has 2 grades. So the 4 grades at the middle school, we have 3 full desktop labs that have classes every period of every day. So we displace all of those students for a period of 5 to 6 weeks. In addition, we have 2 mobile labs that we'd like to use to be able to, number one, alleviate some of the pressure on the computer rooms that need classes, computer class, literacy class, and so forth, and allow students to be tied to the technology, use the technology when those assessments are occurring. In the fall, we've chosen to do local standardized testing so that we can, that and our local data, triangulate data so that we have stronger data about what our students can and cannot do and what our schools need to focus on. And as well as support our general belief that technology not only is currently, but will be a great part of our students' future. And so there are a lot of dollars. There's no doubt that technology is a very expensive investment. But as some of you know, because that's your bailiwick, if you will, in your professional lives, we cannot support this for our students because they will be at serious disadvantage, not only in the subsequent grades here, but also whether they choose to do post-secondary education and certainly in the workplace or in the military. So, you know, Jason, I know, because we work closely, is trying to find the most cost-effective but also educationally effective tools to help our students stay current and hopefully be ahead of the game, if you will, when they compete in the global environment.
Question, Jason, you got gigabit switches all over the place.
Correct.
At every one of these schools.
Correct, yep.
Did you ever think about doing a mobile hotspot for those carts so that you can plug them into your gigabit switch, put 2 or 3 active units right on the cart?
Sure. Yeah, I've done that in the past at other districts, and we've always abandoned them because they take a long time for them to connect. And on top of that, each port you have to put them in, they have to be tagged with the proper VLANs and all that stuff. So instructing a teacher that doesn't really know technology to say, you need to make sure to put it only into this network port is problematic. a lot of times.
Thing, make one blue and the wall blue, put the blue plug in the blue hole. They're
Right.
teachers after all, my God.
And in a lot of the classrooms, there isn't available data drops in a lot of them too already.
Okay, that's a good answer. Just trying to see if there's a bridge between here and there to get you out of your testing dilemma and keep us without.
So is this like this is a one-time special project kind of thing?
So yeah, no, wireless, you're gonna want to, industry standards, 5 to 8 years, depending on the technology that you have, and what you're going to.
I was wondering if, we can look at a fund balance or a warrant article or something to get it out of the budget.
I think there's a problem that we have, and we've got to, eventually we're gonna have to turn and face the damn thing, is that technology is growing at a rate far in excess of what we can afford. I mean, you look at it, it was only a few years ago, somebody had a smartphone was an unusual thing. Now you see everybody has a smartphone. Somebody with a dumb phone is an unusual thing. And they have more than one device. A laptop, a tablet, a smartphone. Yeah. But you have a smart one too, Chris, so, you're right on the line between Neanderthal and advanced human. So the problem is that they only support so many connections. Just like all the times we tried to connect in this room in the past and haven't been able to connect, if there was an event going on out
Yeah.
here, that all the,
Yes.
they would grab all the IP addresses that were available and there was nothing that we could connect to. So they're dealing with the same problem. And it's not slowing down, it's heating up. People have, you got wireless cards, it won't be long if you're doing one-to-one computing here, you're gonna be doing one-to-one computing everywhere in the district.
We'd
And
love
we-
to do it tomorrow.
It'd be great if you could get rid of the textbooks and just do the one-to-one computing, but the problem is, we're doing the one-to-one computing and the cost of the textbooks are still there. So we have all this advanced technology and we're paying twice. We can't get out of the paying twice category.
If I could clarify, all the products that we're buying out of that amount in the last 2 years all have a strong digital component. Unfortunately, because we didn't have the technology capacity, we couldn't go 100%. Even districts that are 100% digital, you probably, in ours, the products we look at, you only save about 10 or 20% of the cost because
Right.
they've lost profits by losing the print, the hard copy, so their digital costs are just about the same as they are.
Right, because you're paying for the content.
Exactly.
So there's no offset, there's no place to grab the
Not
offset for this.
financially. Academically, what happens is during the life of the lease, if you will, so in other words, we'll pay for a year and get 5 or 6 years, we're in year 2 of a 6-year ownership or lease of the digital component for our math. All the updates come through. So that is the one, it's sort of a savings, and you may not have to update as often because you're entitled to those regular updates.
So the bottom line is, you don't see any way that you could defer any part of these two projects.
I feel that both of these, and the only reason why I did put them in at the same time is just because they are really important to the instructional time for the students and the teachers. It helps in many areas, and we are adding more and more devices like iPads and things like that, and the experience has been pretty poor so far. So it's hard for me to really say, one's more important than the other.
My only concern is that if the operating budget were to go down and go to default, you're not going to get these projects. So I'm just looking at the total operating budget and what I can do to bring that down without, and if you say these are needed, fine, I'm done. I'm happy with that. Just know what the risk is, that's all.
Anything else on page 5?
Same thing, I'm gonna go to, where did we go?
531.
531, you're right. That's exactly where I'm going. It's a similar discussion. I looked at the previous, the last year's number was just under 5,800. The previous number was $5,000. So I'd make a motion to reduce the 6,995 by 995 to bring a number of 6,000.
I'll second that one.
It's still more than we've spent this past year. And it's definitely more than the 2 or 3 year average, but I believe it's a more accurate reflection of what that cost would be.
All right, so the motion is a reduction of $995, making that line 6,000, and that's, again, 531 telephone under LMS. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the reduction, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So it passes 6-0. Anything else on page 5? Just looking at 734 equipment additional, and at the very bottom of the page, it says $6,000, and the justification is additional switch upgrade capacity, which is the same wording that was there last year. So is this every year you need to do the same thing?
Correct, yeah, as it was for GMS as well, it's kind of part of that life cycle, switch life cycle, correct.
Okay. All right, moving on to page 6.
I have a question on 430. We haven't come close to the 5,000, so why are we increasing that number? What's driving that $450 increase?
So, I can't really speak for previous years, just because I wasn't here, but there are definite areas of the IT infrastructure that need to be upgraded, just like basic wiring, punch downs, things like that, and they cost a lot of money. So going through and trying to get that reoccurring cost yearly and everything like that, that's where I came out with the additional 450 on there, because every year that's an easy amount that can be spent on just upgrading the internal infrastructure and making sure that we keep everything up to date without having to do a big overhaul one summer.
All right, I'll leave it for now.
Anything else on page 6?
Second.
I said I'm leaving it for now. Oh, you want me to cut it? I'm not voting the bottom line. Well, there is that point that it is such a large increase in the bottom line of the budget that if we spent $2,000 last year, we still can get significantly more done even if we level spend it. Unless Bill wants to amend it. So I'm going to make a motion on 430 to reduce that line item by 450 to level fund.
All right, there's a motion to reduce by 450, which level funds at $5,050. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm deeply concerned about where this budget's going, and anywhere that we can make reductions without having a serious any adverse effect. I mean, because this is still more than we've been spending at a level funded amount. So yes, I know you could do more for 450, but you could also do more with level funded.
Just help me out here. I always said I'm not the technology guy here. And I never pretended to be a technology guy. So, anything anybody can offer?
Any further discussion?
Well, it's just more money, you can get more done.
Chris, you got the tech guy right there, he can help you out.
Okay, but I'm also looking at my committee members here that also, I mean, everybody.
He's a tech guy.
I understand that. We heard that. I'm just trying to get some other opinions.
Without knowing specifically what he's spending that money on, there's no way to evaluate whether that's good or bad. I mean, infrastructure in cabinets usually life cycle is very long, because you're not in there plugging things in and out all the day, so that stuff lasts a long, long time. Cable in buildings lasts a long, long time, and the only thing would be to augment it for speed.
Yeah, we do have a lot of standard Cat 5, so it's rough to get gigabit over long runs. We have a lot of runs that are over 300 feet, so we try to either put in a new cabinet or move wiring to another location. Really shouldn't have cabling over 250 feet.
So just so I understand, there's nothing, or is there something specific for that extra that you know of, or?
If I may, we had, the district went out and contracted, and I'm not sure the company's going to give you a totally non-technical We felt we had some substantial issues. This was during the transition from prior to Jason coming on board. And we went out and contracted with a company to kind of look at all of the infrastructure of our IT. And it might be helpful if we shared that. Do you know which report I'm referring to?
Correct, the IT report from Reliable?
Yes. It might be helpful for the Budget Committee to see that, because, again, I'm not even going to begin to try to explain that to you, because I read it, didn't understand probably 99% of it. But it did highlight when we provided it to Jason Pelletier when he came on board, it provided somewhat of a roadmap as to where some of our deficiencies were we needed to address, and I think it prioritized as well, because it was substantial. When we looked at it, of course, the VA gets a hold of it and says, okay, now you need to prioritize for us, because obviously we cannot come up with that kind of funding. So it might be helpful, and we'd be more than happy to share that report with the Budget Committee.
Back to 430, repairs and maintenance. There's a motion to reduce by 450, leaving $5,050 in that line. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the reduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So it passes 6-0.
Thank you for the information. Like I said, I still don't understand it, but at least you helped explain it.
Could I go back to replacing the wireless systems?
Sure.
$27,000. How was that number developed?
Sure, so based on how we did the high school, and similar, the amount of students in each of the schools is very similar. What we do is we have a map of the school, and we lay out how many access points we need per density and per manufacturer. And we can go out and we can take a look at RF and everything with software on a computer to see, is there a lot of interference here? Does it mean that wireless is in this room can go to the next room, but another room has some interference, like a steel beams. So we need to add an extra access point over here. So we come out to, based on the same pricing that we did for the high school. Obviously, prices can change in a year and whatnot, but controllers, $5,500, support, about $2,000, and then each one of the access points is between $600 to $700.
So both schools cost the same amount?
Yeah, when we did the heat map, they pretty much are the exact same AP count.
Okay. What did the high school cost?
It was the same, it was $26,559, and then there's a couple of additional parts that we needed for that we'll need to do for the other one
Okay.
as well.
Anything else on page 6? Page 7.
On 532, I'm curious as to the driving of the 4,000. I've seen a lot of the numbers come up to 15 grand. It seems pretty standard throughout, but this fund hasn't come close, I think, is my note. So we spent, so is it really $4,000 more for every one of these buildings because of this?
Yeah, and I actually have the Fairpoint quote for upgrading everything to 200 meg. So the monthly reoccurring cost is $528.85 without any E-rate funding. And then, so we just multiplied that out by, we added that times 12 and then divided out by the schools to come up with that number, minus the E-rate money. And I have a copy of that if you guys want to see that too.
Again, that's just like gasoline. You buy a block of bandwidth, that's what you have available. It's guaranteed 200 megabit.
Right, exactly. And we're hoping in the future, that's with the tech plan, to upgrade eventually to a gig so that we don't have to put controllers in each of the buildings. That could save a lot of money over the cost. We can centralize the data center. So a little bit of that pricing was the total return on ownership is going to be massive savings once we can finally finally get up to there, and then the replacement cycle happens. We can bring everything up here to the high school. So that's kind of where we're trying to go to, and we'll highlight that in the tech plan.
Anything else on page 7?
The technology supplies, 610, is there, I mean, it hasn't been budgeted, and it continues to be spent, so, and not a lot of it. So I'm curious as to, why we came up with $1,000.
Yeah, so in our IT room, we have a KVM that's on the fritz, so we have to reboot it. Sometimes we have to reboot it a bunch of times. And it's a multi-port, it's an 8-port one, and the going cost for an enterprise one, like a low-end one, is about $1,000.
All right, so there is a purpose for that, okay.
Yeah, because this 3-year average was just under $600, but if it's for a specific item,
So how many people around the table know what a KVM is?
nope.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it sounds like, no, I have no clue. I love it. But it's something you plug a lot of things, like what we have.
Yeah, no, I
Right.
apologize. It's, so when we go and we get laptops ready or computers ready for classrooms and whatnot, we'll have a whole bunch of them up. Instead of having a monitor and a mouse and a keyboard for each one of them, we can plug them into this device and it'll share this one monitor and mouse.
You just
So-
press a button, it'll change from
You see, that's
whatever
something,
computer
you
you
plug a lot of somethings.
I'm just kind of curious, because that went with no problem. Everybody seemed to know what it was, and I was pretty sure no one had a clue.
Yeah, I
think
apologize
it's
for
not
that.
so much that we know what it was, but that it was a specific
I-
item that had an actual cost.
Nobody asked, and that was,
I don't need to know.
All right, so that is the end of technology, and we move on to buildings and grounds. So I think that's,
Thank you.
thank you for
made us
your
smarter.
support and
you won't remember it,
information.
You had to change them.
The luxury of technology is very few people really know what you're talking about.
That is true.
But we all use it, and that's the scary part, is we know when it doesn't work.
I'm not going there, Madam Chair, that's your statement, not mine.
I leave it to my husband, honey, come fix it.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to buildings and grounds.
So at 1:30, there was discussion about considering whether or not to use the overtime to hire a new position. Has there been a decision made?
There has not been a decision made on that. We're still taking a look at utilization of the overtime and how we can better apply if we were to look at bringing on board a part-time. No decision has been made, but we've done the financial analysis and it's pretty much a push relative to what we spend on the cost of a part-time being able to utilize. We would still have some overtime requirement.
Yeah, so there were reductions of $10,000.
In the overall district-wide.
Yeah. But in buildings, I see GMS, CHS, and LMS. I was trying to think.
This is similar in concept to textbooks. What we are doing for the 2017 budget, we are putting the overtime at district-wide so that we can allocate out so we have some control over it on the district. So if, for instance, GMS requires some overtime, they would need to come to the BA and receive approval for that overtime, and then we would charge it back down to the appropriate line for them.
So what exactly is the overtime used for?
Predominantly snow emergencies.
Yeah, there's the exact reduction. So there's grounds, CHS, LMS, and GMS, and the reductions equal the $12,500.
what would you do if you had events in 2 schools the same day?
If we had what?
Events in more than 1 school in the same day?
That we had to cover custodial coverage, we would have 2 custodians.
So may I
By
ask,
board policy, we're required to have a custodian on duty in a building when there's an outside activity.
so, I mean, since it was brought up, then how would one part-timer satisfy that?
That's what I'm saying, we would still have some overtime requirement, but we need to look at how we manage the overtime. And a lot of it is dependent upon the time when it's gone.
Right.
If it happens in the afternoon, then we have to clean up the building. Our second shift custodial staff typically starts around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we would have, they're there already. It's when we need to do cleanup at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to open school up the next
So you're
day.
saying the overtime primarily is used in the winter snow months only?
That's correct. And some for community use, as you heard. So we're getting more requirements on community use because of the fact that one of the outcomes of controlling the building now, because we have alarms and we have keys, and we have to control it, and again, by board policy, if an outside group is utilizing our building, just in the event that there is an emergency with, say, the heating or the electrical or plumbing, if we have a leak, we need to have somebody on site. So that part-time weekend person would do a lot of coverage, like, for instance, the rec program, I know utilizes the 2 schools, GMS, LMS, on Saturdays and Sundays. We don't always have a custodian there. It would be very nice for us to have someone there, again, in the event there is an emergency.
But the truth is, too, if our meeting's here until 11, that's in the overtime for the custodian, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
conceivably it is. We sometimes can, we have a young custodian that we can kind of shift around some hours for him,
Okay.
and maybe, instead of coming in 2:30 tomorrow, come in at 3:30.
Yeah, no,
So we do some of that.
That's the
But to answer
genius
your question, when you
way.
hang
yeah.
late, then yes, we have to keep custodial staff here.
That's the way I do it on my video, play with the hours.
You do.
as
We're
long as
constantly
within the
juggling
week, you're
hours.
able to do it.
Yep, we're constantly juggling hours with custodial staff.
It's a great way to
Again,
manage and save overtime.
Right, but the overwhelming responsibility of the second shift custodial staff is to maintain the buildings prepared for the next morning, and make sure it's in a place that is safe, sound, and clean.
Okay.
All right, at the bottom of page 1, 734, equipment additional, we have 6 blowers, and this is to buy 4 more? Is
Correct.
how I'm reading that?
Correct. I think you've heard over the years, and I'm not here to reaffirm, but we have severe moisture issues going on at GMS, to the extent that we have dehumidifiers constantly running in the spring and the fall, in each and every classroom, and also, we didn't have any blowers. And these are commercial grade blowers that will allow us to dry up some areas that otherwise would be problematic for us.
So, again, given what we're looking at with a tax increase, if we've got 4, then I think we need to make do in some areas, and so this seems an area that we can make do at least for another year. So I'll make a motion to reduce line 734, equipment additional by, let's say $11.99. That leaves $1, so if you need to juggle things around, you can.
I'll second. What are we?
Just as I said, we're looking at, huge increases that make sense for curriculum and technology. If we've got 4 blowers, well, then we're gonna have to make do with 4 blowers for 1 more year.
My thought too is we're proposing to do a analysis, correct, of the school's facilities. Would this not be one of those items that we would have the engineers look at to actually provide a long-term solution for this?
It would be addressed, but this is a short-term need for.
No, I understand that.
If I can, we have had slips and falls are probably the major issue that any school district, specifically Litchfield, and specifically GMS. We've had, unfortunately, a number of occurrences where these blowers would remedy maybe some of the moisture issues that we have in the fall when the humidity is high.
Are we going to have complaints about noise and the ability to teach it less? Or would they only be run at night?
I wouldn't know that, but
Well, I
I
mean,
don't know.
if we're
They're not that loud.
Could I ask, are these blowers, I think you might have said it in the beginning of the conversation, in the hallways or aiming into classrooms?
No, these would be in the hallways. For instance, here at CHS, we've had issues with humidity right here in the walkway. We had in the occurrence of less than 1 day, we had 4 people slip, so we had to run those blowers. to keep
You're saying
the-
humidity, not because floors were mopped, the water's being tracked in, just because of humidity in the air or the circulation. But this is for GMS, so is this specifically these blowers for GMS?
Correct.
Okay, and these are the typical blowers, that are just aiming at the floor, right? Correct? 2 or 3
Steve
feet.
carpet installers,
Okay, right.
those folks that they polyurethane the floor and they bring those
Right.
low grade.
So you have-
low riders, they call them,
So right now, there's not enough.
right, to cover the area.
because they're all running at the same, the four we have are running at the same time, and there's other areas that need it.
There's, I think we heard him just say that there's been slips and falls. I mean, we're in a situation, it sounds like, where there's water on the floor that's got to be taken care of. The other thing is, for those of you who may not have been in town at the time when it was found out that water's coming through the slab at GMS, and the issues with mold and everything else, this is a key
It's
issue.
imperative we keep it as dry as we possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the need, I understand all sides of the argument right now, and I know those blowers, I own many of them, and I mean, right now, I know them to be $200 each at max, so, for 1,200, I see, you're recommending buying 4 of them, right? Yeah, they're $200 a piece, I mean, that's what I've always paid for them. I mean, look, just to get the conversation going, I'd like to amend that, and I'd like to leave a total, I'd like to make a motion to amend that motion and leave a total of 800 in that line, which means it's a reduction of,
A reduction of 400.
okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay.
When was the last time, Mr. Pascucci, you bought some boat blowers, as a matter of fact?
3-4 months ago, I bought one,
Look
and
at
I'm
the
looking
current
right
price.
here, $200.
3 speed, you said, right?
Top of the line is
I don't know how many.
269.
Yeah, top of the
I
line.
don't know how many speeds they
And
have.
yeah, I paid under 200, I mean, there's a lot of, so look, I know they're $200, I own about 10 of them.
Would you be willing to loan them to the school?
Sure, I don't use them all at the same time, and you got, come to my shop in Merrimack, grab them anytime you want, but in this case,
I'll get
look,
the address from you later.
yeah, I know, look, I know the need for them, the floor's slippery, you gotta dry it.
All right, any further discussion? So the amendment is a reduction of $400, leaving $800 in that line. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? All right, so
That was
that's,
voting on the amendment.
that's the
Yes.
amendment, 710. So now the main motion leaves $800 and is a reduction of $400. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
No,
Any abstain? So it passes 5-3-0.
Ready to say how much shipping is for those blowers on it?
What's that?
Say how much shipping is?
They're available at Sears.
Yeah, I can give you a local contact, they'll deliver it at no charge, they're out of Manchester.
Pascucci Enterprises.
Let me know, I'll pick them up for you, I'll bring them down.
Thank you.
All right, anything else on page 1? Page 2.
So 272, does that fall under that global reduction that's been made?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Good enough.
Anything, page 2?
Well, so 734, we have 6 floor blowers. Is it similar situation then?
Correct.
So then if we're saying they're $200 a piece for 6, it's $1,200.
$269 if you buy the top of the line one, and if you buy more, well, $279 if you buy more than 2, if they're $269 if you buy them from Uline.
Oh, Uline always expensive.
So if we say $200 is what we used last time, so 2 times 6 is $1,200. So I would make a motion to reduce line 734 by $600, leaving $1,200.
Second.
Motion has been made to reduce by $600, leaving $1,200.
Similar rationale.
Well, I just have a question, I've never known LMS to be wet, I know GMS was, so what's the issue with LMS? That I've never been aware of that one.
It's the issue of wet areas.
Water being
I
tracked
can't
from
explain why you
outside.
haven't heard it before, but I can tell you the facility manager, who manages both of those properties, tells us that there are no blowers there, and he's constantly bringing the blowers over from GMS to LMS to take care of carpeting, wet damp carpeting. And again, mold is a huge issue for us, and we have to maintain those as dry as we possibly can.
but GMS.
Why you haven't heard that in the past, Mrs. Scucci, I can't.
Yeah, I don't know either, I was on the building committee many years ago, and boy, I tell you, the discussions we had about moisture and GMS, that was the main subject, I just never heard LMS of it.
Yeah, unless it's
LMS
just...
has never had an issue brought to our attention of moisture coming up to the ground, as GMS does.
I didn't say it was coming up to the ground.
Where's it coming from?
I don't know, I'd have to get a report directly from.
I guess.
The humidity exists in the buildings to begin with, they're hot. There's moisture in the ground coming up, and there's a lot of carpeting in that building. So where exactly it's coming from, I can't tell you. The recommendation from the facility manager is, we need to blow as many to take care of something that is another light.
Did you say that the cost of those was $268 apiece?
They range from under 200 to 269, all over the place. Most of them are in the $200 category.
What's the 268 one?
That was from Uline, which is the most expensive vendor you'd think of.
So, to me, it sounds situational, like when we clean the carpets, when we shampoo the carpets, because I've also never in 20 years heard of LMS having wet carpet problems.
I'm thinking maybe tracked in from outside.
That's all I can think of.
Do we need 6 more? They already have 1, that brings it to 7.
Excuse me.
I mean, I can't argue with the
I
fact
think
that
it's-
every building should have at least 2 or 3. You know, I couldn't come up with any kind of valid argument about that, because you could have more than one area at the same time. 2 or 3 entrance ways, right? I mean, the kids come in at least 2 primary entrances at LMS.
Yeah, I could agree, in the winter months, you need
Yeah.
something by the door when you're tracking in the snow and all of that, that's.
So, I mean, it makes sense.
All right, so the motion is a reduction of $600, leaving $1,200 in that line, 734 equipment additional, LMS. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the reduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? So passes 6-0. Anything else on page 2? Page 3?
Yeah, let me talk about the 330 account, professional services. I've looked at, for the past 3 years, what the school board has requested for this account, and what we have actually spent the last 2 years and what we're projecting to spend this year. And the difference between what is being requested, or has been requested, and what actually gets spent ranges from $92,000 to $74,000 for the current year. So about 25% of what is requested is actually spent. So my take is that this account in total is over-requested, and I honestly think at least 30,000 of that is in the sped accounts, okay? Which still brings me to a point where, you know, the total account, 330 account, is $390,000. I'm looking at the $40,000, which is part of this, and I would prefer to see that as a separate warrant article. So I'm going to make a motion to remove the $40,000 from line 330 to make that line item 6,500.
I second.
There's a motion to reduce by $40,000, leaving $6,500 in that line. It's been made and seconded. Further discussion?
And I'd fully support that as a separate warrant article. I just don't want to see it in the operating budget. This account is just too high as it is. The budget is too high as it is.
Can I ask the school to describe what this $40,000 includes? It looks like it's a capital plan, but if you can kind of elaborate a little bit.
Sure. This is to do a complete analysis of all 3 buildings relative to engineering, relative to heating, electrical, plumbing, looking at the capacity of the buildings as well, looking at from the standpoint of strategically what we will need to do over the next, and they do give a typical structural plan, things that would need immediate attention and also costing it out over a period of time as well. But it will look at, it looks at enrollment, it looks at services requirements, and it looks at utilization of buildings as well.
So what would happen in the case that the warrant article fails and you are unable to spend any money at all on that type of activity?
We would come back the following year, and it would just delay our, we just did put a strategic plan in place to develop a capital plan for the district, which, as you can see here, has been lacking. And it would delay our ability to put that into motion for 1 year.
And how would the education of the children be affected if this were to fail?
We don't know.
Can I comment on that? Yeah, I believe that the issue with this is infrastructure has tended to be overlooked throughout the public sector that I can speak to, roads, bridges, et cetera. And I think if we don't take a look at all of our capital needs in the district and we keep pushing it out, the problem we have is that actual budgets are just kind of like taking a guess at what we really need to stay ahead of. We don't really know what our boilers or our underground oil tanks, we know they're compliant. The thermal capacity of our walls in terms of envelopes and things. And I think it behooves us to go forward with this as quickly as we can. So my concern, to answer your question, is that if we don't have that warrant article pass and we can't go forward with that, again, it pushes it out another year. And I'm concerned that we keep pushing out this kind of a real informed development of a 5-year capital plan, and it doesn't get done. How will it impact our educational system, was your specific question. And I think the answer to that is, I think that if nothing happens, we will go forward with our educational system. But if there is a major concern, heating, roof, wall, things like that, that we haven't defined, it could cause us to have a major disruption in our educational system. So I think the odds are probably that it will not impact our education system, but if it does, we've had to close down schools for a period of time until we deal with a specific significant issue and inability. Thank you for that.
I guess maybe the point of my question was missed. Under state law, if you have a warrant article for a particular purpose and it fails, you cannot spend any money on that. So I just want to make sure you understand that going forward, even though the budget may have $1,000 here or there, or whatever the case may be, available to you to do that type of work, you would not be able to do that anyways.
Yes, that is why I'm responding the way I did.
Okay.
Because it would mean that we would not be able to do a thing with this, and therefore I don't believe that we would be able to reasonably push the capital plan out any further where it is right now. We could do some initial stuff, but we really need to have a really good understanding, engineering and otherwise, of what we're dealing with. Thank you.
I think everybody at the table understands what no means.
Well, sometimes.
I think we all pretty much understand it. I just don't see the need for this being in the operating budget per se, because the operating budget should be directed to, in my opinion, the education of the children. This is something that should be done. Don't disagree. It's also something the voters can say, yeah, we'd like to do it, obviously should do it. And by the way, the vote has been pretty good in that regard. So I hate it when I hear people throw out, no means no, therefore we shouldn't do it, because that's not a rational reason for not doing something.
Bill, I think there are a lot of things in this particular budget, buildings and grounds, that don't affect the education of the children. But it's part of what's needed to operate the buildings to educate the children. Like, you don't need a light bulb, to teach a child math.
Okay, but what?
Okay, but it helps.
So I think what I'm hearing, though, is that there's an understanding of why this kind of study would be important. But I think that this is something that if the taxpayers weighed in on directly, you'd have a much stronger case. And then you'd also have money that could not be used for any other emergency. You would actually, worst case scenario, still get to do your study, even if, say, the whole budget failed and this passed. So I think this is, I'm hearing it's important, and that taking care of our infrastructure is important, but giving the community an opportunity to weigh in on this, and then, assuming it passes, now you're guaranteed to do it.
So I want to respond to Bill's comment that I was making an argument that no means no is an argument against putting it as a warrant article. That wasn't my point. My point was that if there are other capital plans that they're thinking of doing that are contained in this budget, the failure of that warrant article potentially could impact those other plans as well, and they would not be able to spend money on it.
Not if
I don't
Not if
have-
it's worded correctly.
Exactly,
Well,
not if it's worded
that's
correctly.
debatable. Okay? And my point is, that's got to be considered when you make that decision as to putting this as a warrant article or not.
Yeah.
But I
This
think,
is a study, Frank,
Understood what it is.
not actually doing repair work.
I understand fully what it
Okay.
is.
All right.
I think too that the premise that it's gonna fail is quite a big one, because I don't think it will.
Well, it's a 50-50 premise.
I don't think so, because I would be on board for this, and people know that I'm not in favor of spending, so if you see the entire budget committee behind this, and if you have a cogent, real argument in support of it, which is what we should be doing anyway in favor of any budget that we support, explain it and sell it to the voters, they will support it. But to say, well, we're worried it might fail, that's not giving the voters enough credit.
So
And if it does fail, it's because we didn't explain why we needed it.
let me repeat again what I said a moment ago, which is if there's other monies potentially contained within their budget that they're expecting to expend for some type of a study, capital study, the failure of this warrant article could jeopardize their spending in that. So if they are aware of that, they need to consider it, that's all.
As they write the warrant, if they write the warrant.
Correct.
All right, so, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of 330 professional services, a reduction of $40,000, which leaves $6,500 left in the line, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So the motion passes 7-1-0. Anything else on page 3? Page 4?
I have a question on 430, general repairs and maintenance. The first line, I'm not a huge fan of formulaic kind of things like this. So I'm also curious as to why it's 48% higher than last year. Are there certain repairs and maintenance plans that we're aware of, or is this just we expect a 48% increase?
Are you making reference specific to the general repair line itself?
Are things tied to some of the other items?
Correct.
So there's actually, and I can understand where those numbers come from. But it sounds like number one, line item 1 is a function of the square footage of the building.
It really is not. And we tried to get the facility managers to go away from tying some sort of metric to the square footage versus what are the actual, trends. Again, what are the areas that you know that you're going to need to go to spend dollars on the maintenance and repair, specifically in the preventative maintenance area, because again, we do not, it's very difficult for us to anticipate what is going to be some sort of catastrophic breakdown of equipment. So I totally agree with you. We've tried to remove ourselves from this metric that we've seen in years past of square foot times this metric number, which may or may not be able to be substantiated. So again, this is the facility director looking at what he's anticipating for actual expenses coming into the following budget year.
I guess I would just ask if, I don't have any current motions, because I don't really understand what that encompasses, and for each of the buildings, if there was a list of, and I know Brian's gonna hate me because we should have asked this in email, but if there is a list of what this actually reflects, instead of saying this is what he expects to spend, I'm like, well, if that's what he expects to spend, well, why not split the difference between last year and this year?
Repair and maintenance, as you can imagine, and I'm sure with you all in your own homes, is different from one year to the next, and we're projecting here on a school that has from an area from 1930 built to, I think, 1970, 1960. So to the extent that from year to year to look at comp trends and what we've spent, we'd have to go back and drill down to do an analysis as to what maybe broke one year and we needed to repair it. It's difficult to do, it takes some time, but if the wish of the committee is for us to drill that down, we can. But again, to look at trend analysis and repair and maintenance of buildings, again, we're not looking at consistency from one year to the next.
Is this for all the repairs? So this is for boiler maintenance, for unit ventilators,
No, there's land and weather maintenance.
Yeah, I know when it's been done by the cost per square foot in years past, it's been a very low number, much lower than industry standard. All right, I'm gonna make a motion. I'm gonna reduce 430 repairs and maintenance by $10,000, leaving $70,000 in that line.
Second.
Well, I just looked at, it's increasing by $13,000. An increase makes sense, because like I said, I know it's usually underfunded. I split the difference, $7,500. I looked at the list of projects, and they all seem really important. So I took the littlest one, building a partition, which is $3,500. And actually, that comes out to $11,000, so I didn't add correctly, but I'll leave it at 10. So for whatever rational or irrational, that's where I came up with the number.
And also, what is the cost of a lockdown in the event of a lockdown? How do you get to $3,154?
It's $240 a lot, so,
Yeah, 13 classrooms.
which is a reasonable amount for a lot, so. I'm going to say that it's reasonable.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Petition at 3,500 is reasonable.
Any further discussion? Hearing none? Oh, did I hear some?
Yeah, I guess a question, you're knocking money off there, but the 15 actual expenditures is 107,000.
And the year before it was 42.
Okay.
That's the problem, I think.
It can vary every year.
No, I understand that it can vary every year. I would think we'd want to understand why it spiked to 107,000 versus 42 the year before, so we could understand that difference to see if the number you're proposing, 70,000, makes sense.
Do we know what we spent money on this past year?
I would have to get that information, Brian, I don't have that readily available.
Yeah, the problem is the bulk of the money is in the miscellaneous stuff that goes on, and you just,
Right.
I don't have any-
From year to year, the miscellaneous changes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's based on what the priorities are for repairs in the building.
And in 2013, it was $56,406. So yes, something unusual this past year, but on average, it's been a lot lower.
but, if I look at the total account, the 430 account, 2014, we spent $276,000. 2015, we spent $361,000. Don't know what we're spending year-to-date, but the budget number is $373,000. And this proposed budget is $407,000, so everything going up, up, up. So the reduction that you made, I suspect, could be accommodated quite nicely within the total account.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of line 430, repairs and maintenance, a reduction of $10,000, leaving $70,000 in that line, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So it passes 6-0. Anything else on page 4? Page 5.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into details, Frank, but how did you price out the electric utilities?
We get a price forward report. We get a one-year price forward report from, you saw we use an outside consultant.
And that's a cost per,
Our cost per kilowatt, we're projecting part of that increase as well. You may have heard in the news that electric of all the utilities are going to substantially rise, forecast in 2017 because of delivery costs, not necessarily as a production.
okay.
That's a direct forecast from the, we get a one-year forward projection.
You still keeping track of the usage, by the way? I won't ask you for it.
Yeah, well, we try, trust me, I go around shutting lights off. We're well aware of the cost of electricity, and we're trying to manage that as best we can.
I'm sorry, go.
Sorry, I was on the next one, but go ahead.
Um,
Can you tell me, is the tech ed the wood shop?
Mhm.
Now, I remember, we took the toilet last year, I was in the wood shop, and that door was scheduled to be replaced last year.
Not that one.
Not that one? Because I remember looking at that one, but that one wasn't, so please correct me if I'm wrong.
There's
Both those here.
there's a
There's a reason
hallway
for-
door that was replaced, but not the tech ed door.
Okay.
You're thinking of over here, right?
Here, yeah.
This is LMS.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
we're
this is
looking at
our-
LMS, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're currently locked in on our fuel oil?
Mhm.
That's awful, because I know I just paid $1.88.
Nice.
So it's just painful to see us locked in at that rate when my rate also included taxes. So,
You paid what?
I just filled up my tank today, paid $1.88.
Oil?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's really low right now.
You know, my wife just pulled it up and I wasn't surprised
I
by
got to
that.
fill up a week ago and I didn't pay that.
They delivered today.
I'll remind the committee, last year, we were locked in at a rate that was about 23 cents lower than the going cost at that particular time.
It just makes me wonder if it's the logical thing to do to lock in a rate. I mean, I don't lock a rate for the reason that I can call different
Well, it's
places.
logical when you lock in for less than
right.
what's normal, but it's illogical when you lock in for more.
And utilities are so
I believe
volatile.
we're at 204, by the way.
Spot price was down by like 21 cents today.
All right, anything else on page 5?
That rate 204.
412 of LMS, annual maintenance, is that a placeholder of 3,800? It's the same amount last year, and we haven't spent that much.
Hmm.
So I mean, it was 1675 in 2013, 1695 in 2014, and just under $1,800 in 2015. So I'm curious as to, is that just a number that we've used traditionally, or? is there-
That's quote from the company that we use to clean the traps, and I believe in past years, some of that expense was shared with food service, I believe, but we're picking it all up and where it belongs. It doesn't belong in food service. It's a cost directly related to the servicing and repairs of the building.
So then, next year, we would see an actual $3,800 in here. Because the last 3 years, it's been $3,800, and we're not paying the full $3,800. So, my inclination would be to reduce this to the $1,800. Are you telling me that you're changing how you are accounting for it, and next year we're gonna get the full 38? Or is it gonna continue?
It's gonna cost us
but-
$3,800 to do the grease traps, by quote from the person that does it.
But you had that quote last year too, right?
This current year?
This current year,
This current year.
Right, but last year was also budgeted at $3,800.
This current year.
for now, for today.
When you say last year, you're referring to this current year?
15?
2016?
Yes.
What budget we did for this year?
We budgeted 3,800 for this fiscal year.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. Leave it for now.
Anything further on?
Oh, 430 scrolls across.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the gymnasium floor recoat, annual strip and repoly. Annual to me means every year,
Mhm.
but it wasn't in last year's budget. So is this something that is new going forward,
Mm-mm.
or something that we occasionally do?
No, it should be done every year.
It's
It
done
is
every year. There's
yeah.
there's actually a line item for that now, whereas before, at LMS in particular, the custodial staff has attempted to do it themselves, so we used our labor
Okay.
and our supplies. Starting this past summer, we actually had a company come in and do it, that we found the return on having an outside company was less expensive
Mhm.
and more, I'm trying to find a politically correct way, if it came out a heck of a lot better if you know the LMS gym floor.
They have a lot more experience, that's all they do, They're a lot more experienced.
May I just add something to that for all future conversations? When you subcontract things out instead of do it yourself, Thank you for saying that, because I found that's usually the norm.
Trying to help your business.
By the way, I do no business with the school.
It actually had, last year, the problem we had was the humidity. And had we had the blowers, maybe we wouldn't have had all the issues with the gym floor. I'm sorry, it was kind of a setup.
There you go.
You do have a blower. You don't say you
Yeah,
have
but
a
the one
blower.
didn't take care of the entire gym. We actually, the top of the poly that was put down in the gym dried too fast. And it was created bubbles mid-area of the drying process. So we have a company that come in and they did, if you have been at LMS since the summer, they did a great job. I apologize, there's a weak attempt at humor after 9 o'clock. Been a long day.
It's okay, nobody's watching. It's just us.
I got a kick out of it.
All right, I will make a motion, 430 repairs and maintenance, a reduction of 4,500.
I'll second.
Which leaves 79,468. I should probably just do something to even it out, but
Yeah.
my brains. We will do 44,68 is the reduction.
I already wrote 4,500.
Is that what I?
You're gonna make me cross out?
And just as a point, you already have a motion on the table.
I know, I'm trying to do math here and it's not, my brain's getting, we'll leave it at 4,500.
I don't have to cross out.
You have to amend it to be all official.
Yeah. So, I looked, just was thinking about level funding it, looked at a 3-year average, which is 79,438. So basically, I'm not picking a project, but just looking for places to shave off, so I just shaved it to the 3-year average. Again, because we're looking at, some really important things like technology and books and buildings do tend to be where it gets shaved off, unfortunately, but it's a balancing act. Any further discussion?
Yeah, what's the motion?
4,500, which leaves 79,468 in 430 repairs and maintenance. Which
On
is
LMS?
LMS, which is basically the 3-year average.
Why are we using the 3-year average?
Because we don't have a.
Tradition.
The only thing I'll say
3-year
about,
average doesn't consider anything in terms of dealing with.
I know that.
Cost of goods going up.
it doesn't deal with
Well-
that.
It's the argument that we've had all along in terms of the Board of Selectmen side of the house with using averaging. I mean, you could average 20 years and really hang yourself out if you're looking to do that.
Not if you do it right.
The other
Yeah,
problem
you
with,
could.
the other problem with averaging, especially like in repairs, if you only have X amount budgeted, you're gonna try to maintain that budget. So maybe there are repairs that were put off. So when you're looking at a 3-year average, sure, that's what we spent. Is that what we need for repairs? Not necessarily.
Well, I mean, if you want me to pick a couple of things that maybe could wait a year, ceiling fans, maybe replacing the tile of the cafeteria floor, although the cafeteria floor is in pretty poor condition. I mean,
I think the answer, Cindy, is that in the bulk number, the 24,000 for this school and whatever GMS was and what Hamel High School is, that's a bulk number. We don't know whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. Okay, that's for the general maintenance. And that's really where the money's should come out of, if it comes from anywhere.
yeah, I think the square
You don't have to
footage-wise,
pick a
that's
particular project.
square footage-wise, there really wasn't the rise in LMS that we saw in GMS, so
No,
I'm
GMS
not.
is the biggest one.
Yeah, I'm not taking that into account at all. I think that's a reasonable.
All I'm saying is those numbers are a guess also. Okay.
And to Frank's argument about the cost of goods and stuff like that going up, I mean, other than commodity goods, the current rate of inflation for the last 2 years has been 1.47 and 1.62%. This year hasn't calculated out yet, but it looks like it's going to be closer to 1.2. based on the months that they
For a
have.
year, yeah.
For the year.
But now let's multiply that out by the 3 years that you're using to average, right? 1.2 times 3 is
Don't know. I didn't go to
3.6.
school.
So you're basically taking from the budget, not just the decrease, but also the cost of that increase through inflation. That's my point.
We're making our best estimate based on predicting the future.
Hey, listen, we got a price for a job the other day. I was talking to Chris about 12,000, 6,400, and 3,900 for 3 prices, so sometimes somebody's hungrier than the other. You can get a better price on something. I think $4,500 off of this is fair.
And we have to think globally, a big picture too. We can complain that we're not properly funding everything, but if the budget goes down and you end up with less, you're gonna be in worse shape. So here at least we have a chance of getting more than what would get done otherwise. About prioritizing.
It was actually nice
I
to
was
see
expecting a bigger number, I guess is what I was getting at.
Well, we all sit around the table every year the budget comes through and complain that they're not doing enough work in the school district to keep the buildings up. Yet
What happens,
you
Frank?
keep cutting it.
Frank, what happens is we put, and I'm gonna nail one thing, just an example. We put $10,000 in a line item to fix a set of stairs out the back. They were gonna replace the whole thing, there was no way it could possibly be repaired. Ultimately, they did a repair, and it cost significantly less than $10,000, but they didn't repair the landing, which was 3 feet from the other cement repairs they're doing. Oftentimes, it's just, not that we're not supporting it, it's just we don't see them using it, and certainly not using it in the fashion that they asked for it in. And that is a fair argument, you know?
You
All
can,
right.
you can debate that, yeah.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying that when you get to the point where you're complaining that the school's not doing its maintenance, think back to this discussion.
Yep.
That's all.
I will, and I was gonna say, that it was nice to see them replace the doors and how well they looked on the schools that they put them on, and the tours helped out, you know, to show that they are doing some of that work finally.
Yeah.
It's
and
great.
there's significant, there's more doors in here, and I think there should be plenty of money to do all the doors that are in here. All right, hearing no further discussion. 430, repairs and maintenance, a reduction of $4,500, leaving $79,468 left in that line. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstained? Passes 620. If there's nothing more on page 5, page 6.
431, painting. Do we have specific projects or is this painting as needed?
Just painting as needed.
This is part of a every year painting
Yeah.
requirement.
Okay, because I went through the previous trend, and I didn't use an average, but in 2013, we spent 681, 2014, we spent 0, in 2015, 312. So we're not close to the 1,500. So I am making a motion to reduce the $1,500 of 431 by 750, to split the difference.
A motion to reduce by 750, leaving 750 in that line. Is there a second?
A second F for discussion.
The most we spent was almost $700 3 years ago. We didn't spend anything in 2014, and we spent 300 last year, and so,
I think there was a
More than
significant
double it.
change. A couple of years ago, they did make a significant change down there with how they were staffing that building, who was managing it. And I know there's been a lot of work that they've been trying to catch up on. I'm not sure that isn't part of this, or they haven't got to it yet. They are doing a lot of work.
we've replaced our doors, they should be freshly painted.
I forget, we had, it's $1,000 for the prisoners to come and do work.
It's $1,000 per week.
Right.
Right.
It's a flat fee.
So, and I know this past year, we had them come, and they did just the high school?
No,
They did the
They-
cafeteria, right?
We had we used them
they were at
district-wide?
GMS, LMS,
Okay.
between the two. If I may, this is a little bit of a strategy that you need to be aware of. In past years, painting has always been on the agenda for summer project, but has never been fulfilled because we only have the staff that we have during the summer. You can imagine all the things after 10 months of school year. We have a short window of opportunity to get things done during the summer, and that includes bringing in contractors to do things like doors. Painting was always on, and when I first started here 3 years ago, some of the walls were horrendous. Had never gotten to, because again, it's a high need, low priority, because we just do not have the man-hours to get to the painting. So consequently, some of the expenses you see might be for a 5-gallon bucket here and a 10-gallon bucket there. We strategically looked at how we could utilize the services of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department and the labor there. And this was summer 2, I believe, the second year that we've used their labor force to get just a tremendous amount of work done. So the supply cost, this is supply and labor costs associated with our ability to, the first summer, I can tell you, my first summer here, we did, if we did any, it was marginal painting of any of the 3 schools. This year, we were able to paint all 3 schools and make some considerable, I think GMS, we painted the doors, the interior doors that hadn't been painted in years. So to look at past expenditures in that line would not be reflective of what we're doing going forward.
So is the labor in 431 the prisoners?
Mhm.
Okay.
It's,
That's $1,000 of that is for prisoners.
that's correct, per week.
And I assume you'll have them for a
So
week.
that's a week. So basically what we're doing for that line is earmarking for that school, for them to be there for 1 week
1
painting.
week, and then plus $500 is the material.
But, yeah, it's to some, yeah.
Okay.
But
If you're using it for the prisoners and the material, then that's the right number, assuming it gets done.
So, but the prisoners are not gonna be found anywhere else other than in this line item.
I'm sorry?
So the cost of funding the prisoners here for a week, that's included in this line item?
Yes.
For LMS.
For LMS, right. So I guess if they could hire them for another week and put them somewhere else, or the town will take them for a
Well,
week
it
or
should be in a
two.
different line item.
Right, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
it means assuming
Right.
how many weeks you got them for, and it depends, how many prisoners we got too.
Plenty to pick from.
Workers.
Might not be available.
We like to refer when they come on school campuses as controlled, under the control of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
it's just, we budgeted that last year as well. So if we actually plan to use it, that's one thing, but if we budget it and then we just don't
Well,
get to
we
it.
never know that, right? We can only,
Oh, I know, we never.
right, I
never.
mean, whether they use it or not, that's not our control. It's whether it makes sense that it's in there.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of 431 painting, a reduction of $750, leaving $750 in that line, signify by saying aye.
I'm gonna say aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So it fails 170. Anything else on page 6? Page 7.
Page 7, under CHS 421, rubbish disposal. It's omitted from previous years. What, does it mean it was picked up in a different line item, or?
No, it means it was, for some reason, omitted from previous years.
Just not- So it was absorbed without being included anywhere?
I'm sorry?
So we must have paid it.
We had to pay it.
Okay, so.
Where did we pay it? I can't answer that question right now. I can tell you it wasn't budgeted.
So that's the actual annual number to remove the
Correct.
$9,000. And then the other line, 7,200, is just for the sensitive documents which go in a bin. and
That's our
the
shredder,
company
that's our
can-
shredder service, correct. Special ed guidance, main office here. All 3 offices use it.
I have a question on, up on the top, it's actually continued from the next page, but it's talking about filters, HEPA filters for air handlers. Why are you using HEPA filters in this building?
They're not using HEPA filters.
That's why I'm asking the question.
I know, but most people, when they say filters, they automatically say HEPA. They don't,
Right.
they don't know. They're using filters. You can't use a
use them
HEPA
in-
filter. The system won't work.
I don't know if they make even a HEPA.
Yeah, and it wouldn't work.
Whatever is recommended by the manufacturer of those units we're using.
That's a clerical error.
Right.
I read by that because it's not, you can't do it because of the pressure drop.
I'm well aware.
Yeah.
Sounds like several people
Well,
are.
that's right.
So
That way it worked.
So I guess for future, make a note, just remove the word HEPA, and everybody will be happy.
Maybe not everybody, but a few of you will be happy. We'll do it.
Anything else on page 7?
737, the furniture replacement, the band room chairs.
Did we buy some last year?
We offered a
Wait a
music
minute,
class from a
what
GMS
At
last year.
GMS,
LMS.
yeah.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
You know, look, the question is, I don't know what the chairs look like, but, you know,
Ask
beyond anticipated useful life. I
Ask
mean,
Craig, you saw him.
You saw them? Okay, so there's two different meanings. Beyond anticipated useful life, or they need to be replaced, are two totally different things. So do they need to be replaced?
There were some that were really old and in pretty poor condition, and they ranged from a handful of brand-new ones to 15, 20 years
So
old.
then the question is, are they like gouged up and scratched, or are the legs about to fall
The,
off?
the arm thingies don't work.
All the above. The maintenance department is, I can tell you at that school, is constantly going in, removing spot welding or best as they, whatever they do.
Okay, yeah,
I
because
told them no
obviously-
duct tape, because duct tape was a big source of repair in that school. If you recall last year, we had some, and this, to answer your question, they're a mess.
Okay, so
That's not a real
if they're a
technical.
safety issue, they need to be
Well, it's
replaced. If they just
safety
look like
and-
crap, they don't.
Well, these are, if some of you saw them, these are desks that, they're chairs that the top part folds down when the students are playing instruments, and then when they're doing something that they would need written material, they're doing something in theory, they then become a desk. So these desks are constantly going back and forth, and from what we understand from Ms. Late, that is the music instructor there, that these were designed for students from 20 years ago, and the instruments have gotten bigger and the students have gotten bigger, and her program's gotten bigger, I might add, that these, maybe when they were purchased, I'm just throwing some numbers around, and she may have had 12 students, and in my understanding, she's oversubscribed right now. We got students, which is a great thing. So these desks are really, they're beat up, I guess, for lack of a
So then the question is, is there 30 the right number? I don't know that answer.
Then on top of that too, she also mentioned that she only has like 2 or 3 lefty desks, if even that
Correct.
many.
Yes.
Right.
And she has many more lefties now.
Then does.
They can't utilize the desk.
Make them use right hand.
We're working on. That's why we need the
Oh, that
books.
was the plan.
Then turn the desk the
What
other
what
way.
time it was, huh?
Yeah, how new was last year at Griffin?
Turn the student the other way.
Did Griffin get new?
Yes.
Student got fitted out with a
chairs in their
brand-new music room. It never had we did not have
Never had a
a
desk.
GMS or a music room. We had a music on wheels, if you will, that would travel from room to room.
There was a music room there at one point, right?
Long time ago, but all
Long
it
time
had
ago.
was a piano and a bunch of chairs.
And that was in the dead-end room.
Yep.
I have it on good authority that if you guys leave this in the budget, they will come and play some songs for you.
Take requests.
What school is this?
It's elements.
LMS.
Actually, they'll-
Yeah, we'll
they'll-
give 'em a shot.
They'll invite you to the holiday concert.
Yeah. All right, 430 repairs and maintenance. I am going to make a motion to reduce it, to level fund it, reduce it by $11,000, leaving, no, I'm not.
All right, that's the way.
No, I just looked at my math again. It's getting late. No, I'm not. So what's there equals the 3-year average.
Well, I have a question though on the next page. It has divider wall in rooms, ongoing repairs, recommend replacement. Why are we spending money to repair something that we think should be replaced?
Didn't we look at those last year? Those are the same ones that are up in the other end?
Yep.
Yeah, they get a lot of use because they
fold
open
up.
for two classroom, and then they
Right.
close to, or open to create one classroom, close to 2 classrooms.
They're quite a system if you were to remove the ceiling tiles in there that they did last summer, right? They're actually on this railing up there, and each of those panels, which weighs, I'm told, in excess of 300 pounds each.
Yep.
If you've ever tried to move one of those walls, someone even my size, I'm pushing. So it takes a lot of energy and those, again, constant back and forth. So when they go in, they have to take those panels down, and like last year, a lot of the rollers needed to be replaced. We're catching up there on some preventative maintenance that maybe over the years wasn't
Fully
necessarily
funded.
where it should have been. Wasn't fully funded.
That's a 3-year average.
It's all about priorities.
It is getting late.
It's getting.
Can't do
Sorry.
averages.
But these are, one is a new area that we need to replace, and one is a continuation of, I believe it's a classroom on the other end that we're doing.
All right, so another question. The flooring, we looked at the flooring. Actually, we didn't see the locker room, but we saw bathrooms.
Right.
And it was originally done incorrectly. Is that a safety issue?
In some areas, it may be, like in the, I don't believe we saw the gym locker, I think
We didn't see the gym locker room, we saw the
Gym-
two bathrooms.
The gym locker, it potentially could be because we have flaking of that material. If you recall, when I showed you the
custodial
room,
closet.
we have some of that issue in the girls' locker room because of the water, constant water with the showering and so forth. In the bathroom areas that we saw, that, I can honestly say, probably isn't a safety issue and something that we could potentially defer.
All right, then I'm gonna make a motion, 430 repairs and maintenance, and the total amount is $10,000, so I'm just gonna have that and make a reduction for $5,000.
I'll second.
That's on 430.
430 repairs and maintenance for CHS, and so that leaves 67,498.
I guess to that end, things like those doors, to replace those classroom dividers is a huge amount of money. To do just envision your garage door at your house. You replace the rollers on the side because it goes up and down on the rollers all the time. That's cheap, but to replace the whole door is expensive. So I'm concerned if we don't keep enough money there for doing those kind of repairs. I really am.
Well,
The
I
doors
would-
themselves are in good shape.
Can I ask a dumb question? If what you're saying is it's the rollers at these doors, these
That's
300-pound
part of
doors.
it, the rollers, the railing.
Panels look
Do
good.
we have a safety issue here if one of those doors comes off the tracks or whatever?
It's a concern.
Off the track.
We try to limit the amount of times that those doors are
No, I
open and
understand.
closed, but it's classroom. It's whether or not there's a classroom of, if you know the area, there's co-teaching that goes on there, or then there might be separation of the two classrooms to individual classrooms. So we're well aware when that's taking place, because one of the areas is directly overhead from the SAU office, so we can hear that. And it sounds like a train coming through when those things roll. So we're making sure, first of all, that all the safety issues, there's really very little, if any, cosmetic type things. The panels themselves are in good shape.
They look
pretty-
great.
Yeah, they can, the vinyl coatings there, sometimes they'll tack some things onto them, but for the most part, the panels are okay, and they're in a much better position. I think it's more of our ability to open and close them than it would be, we're really concerned at a risk of these panels coming down.
Ongoing maintenance.
Any further discussion? So the motion is for 430 repairs and maintenance at CHS, a reduction of $5,000, leaving $67,498 in that line. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So the motion passes 5-3-0. Page 8.
So at 431, are we planning to also have some workers come in? 431 would be
It's
pretty.
431 painting, is that
Yes.
police, the
Yes.
All right,
prison? So that's another 2 weeks, right?
Right.
So you got 3 weeks at the school?
We had them this year for 3 weeks. We just for information purposes, they're in high demand. So literally, when they're leaving us this past summer, we've already booked them for next summer.
You've got it all booked?
Oh, yeah.
And the town has 3 weeks booked also?
We do 2 and 2.
Booked.
I believe it's 2 and 2.
I don't know if it's booked yet.
I can't speak for the town, but I can tell you that the town is the one that got us involved,
Yeah.
and I would almost guarantee that they're booked as well. We actually, I think we boxed them 2 and 2, and then something happened on the town side, and that's where we took we took advantage of that. So it's something that
all right, so.
we don't have a week reserved, but we have the time slot for the summer.
Right, right.
Anything else on page 8? Page 9.
Yeah, anything else
Now,
going?
page 9 is where you guys, page 9 is where you guys reduced line
734, the
to
equipment,
zero.
we made that zero.
Yep.
We did.
Anything else for page 9? Page 10?
Can you tell me what the reduction was in the 430 budget?
What the reduction
Yeah, it says there's a
was.
$4,700 reduction.
I-
What's taken out? I don't have last year's in front of me.
I'll find it for you.
Does somebody else have it?
Yeah.
What's different?
And that's for GMS?
Yes.
This is Jim.
You have it, Bill?
Yeah.
GMS.
Yeah, 430, repairs and maintenance.
Actually, we reduced it to 10,000.
GMS,
Oh, here it is. No, it's LMS. GMS.
it's GMS, yeah.
430
Here it is,
GMS?
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, last year we had curbing. Okay, curbing was in there for $1,000.
Yep.
Um,
Miscellaneous repairs.
Catch basin was in there for 1,100.
The soil.
Our sweeping.
Sweeping was in there for 1,200. Let's see here, and then $2,000 wood fencing,
Another one.
and then more
Wood
fencing.
fencing, yeah.
So did we touch that budget? Did we
Yeah,
make
we-
a reduction last
We
year?
cut $1,500 out of that budget, so we left them with 10,000.
What-
800, 10,800.
What line did we cut it out of? Do we remember? I mean, what?
No,
item?
it was a total of, looks like two,
You reduced the number for the.
we took out 700, and we took out 800. So it was two different
Oh, so
motions.
we took out
Yeah.
two different lines?
That came to,
Probably catch basins and sweeping, most likely.
that would be my guess.
You know, obviously, look, most people in this room, I think pretty much everybody that's been here for a while knows that I brought up the sweeping every year. But it just keeps going back, so I'm guessing I've been making motions to cut stuff that's really, really needed. Unless there's something I don't understand here.
Well, you see where it says repair drainage to field, that's because they haven't done the catch basin clean out because of budgeting issues and stuff, so.
No, we always left money there for the catch basin clean out. I actually went there
He
and
said
counted
that
them
with a
last
straight
year.
face.
Didn't leave enough, though.
Didn't leave enough.
You guys didn't do it.
I guess let me ask the question again. What kind of sweeping do we do for $1,200 at GMS? What actually gets done?
I mean, I really don't know how to answer this, to be honest with you, because it's the same question you had last year.
Yeah.
And we've looked at actual expenditures there, and, GMS is, how many times it gets swept, and I believe it's more than just a spring cleanup. Just to give you a little example, if you know GMS, the back parking lot where the loop comes around, there's a catch drain there. We got some major issues with that drain, and basically what has happened over the past years is we've had a company come in, and they drop the bucket down, they clean out the catch basin and go away. Well, we found out that just wasn't working, because that catch basin actually drains out underneath, it actually goes underneath and over. I'm not being real specific, but it comes out over near that culvert, which was overgrown 2 years ago, we couldn't even find it. To now we've done it, but basically when we clean that, when we go in and clean that catch basin, it's not just cleaning the silt that's built up. They've actually going in like a roto-rooter almost, and they have to now run a line all the way down because the silt is draining into that and blocking it up so that we're not getting drainage flow as we should have been getting there, and we've remedied that about 2 years ago. So to give you an idea, it's.
Catch basin.
Right,
Right.
right. So it's not just,
Clean it water
as you see with the town, they go around, they open up the grill, drop, clean out. It's almost an all day. The last time I was able to see some of that, and it's quite what they have to do to make sure. Because otherwise what was happening, because I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, it was continually backed up, and everybody's looking down and says, well, it's clean, why is it backing up? Because it had no place to go. we're hoping at some point to repair the angle of that. What was happening was coming up out of that catch basin, it was actually draining back to the playground area towards the building.
Because I guess still.
It was pitched wrong.
Nobody knows. Stormwater management should have taken care of that.
Look at that. No, I mean,
Yeah.
nobody knows, do we hire an outside sweeping company? Do we do it ourselves?
No, we hire. There's
We
a
don't know
company
if
that
it's the
comes in.
same guy that does the town and
I don't believe so. It's-
different guy that does the
Yeah.
town. Look, I've always been a supporter of cutting that line, but if, you know,
It's total 3,600 for the 3 schools, and we do the town for
75.
I've said that for 5 years straight. So if anybody wants to make a motion, I'll support it.
I saw the quotes.
I'm gonna defer to my trusty assistant down there, because I knew this question was gonna come up, because after 3 years, even being half Polish, I do get some of the questions.
I saw the quotes.
And I asked Michelle
Have
to
a
take a
sweeping
look
company?
at.
Yes,
A
and,
sweeping company, okay.
yes,
Yeah.
and the quotes are, I called the vendor and I asked them why they're so high and why that they don't charge us what they charge the town. He said, because we come more times than we do the town. He says, and we have a different area that we have to clean, and there's areas we have to get into
Right.
that are, you know,
The blow, yeah.
yeah, kind of.
So it is the same vendor as the town?
Yes, it is, and I
wasn't
said, but
sure.
I don't understand the increase from last year. He went up from last year, and I kind of browbeat him to go back to the price.
This, if I may, because we could talk about this all night, because I really have found out a lot about this since last year's meeting. I'll give you another example. Here at CHS, the drain, the catch basins that are down by the football field. Okay, we've had, as you know, last year, we had a lot of snow, a lot of sand. You know, we oversand, we know that, and we have to because of safety concerns that we have with students and staff and visitors coming onto the property. So we oversand, so it's important for us, even at times that we can get at, to keep that wash going down into those catch basins, because it's not just about groundwater that we're concerned about. Those catch basins actually underground are taking the water off of the roof here at CHS. So if we get a backup out there, I don't need to get into, but it backs up, and then we have flow issues coming off the roof. So it's not simply just keeping a catch basin clean or keeping the driveway looking clean. It's strategic. There's a reason for that. We're coming in and sweeping these lots, maybe more than maybe even the town does. We gotta keep those catch basins clean, and we actually have some issues with those catch basins, that the drain itself is a lot lower than it should be, so the water has a tendency to lose its ability to drain out of those catch basins because the silt builds up a lot faster.
Well, no, thank you.
See how
for
impressed I am?
finding out,
Yeah.
because nobody
Yeah.
ever had the answer or even
Okay.
something remotely close in
Well,
the past 5 years.
I'm going to thank publicly
Yeah.
my capable assistant down there, because I put her on it, and trust me, when I got back a very detailed report on the expenditures, as well as, you know, we've had some drainage issues here around all 3 properties, and consequently, we cleaned culverts out, and we really are very sensitive to making sure we keep a good flow coming off the roofs.
Okay, just because in the interest of time,
Yeah.
if that's a good enough explanation. Anything else on page 10?
I have a question on 610, the 4 applications of Kid Cushion. It was recommended by Primex. Last year's, it had 2 applications recommended by Primex. Curious as to why Primex changed their recommendation.
We've had incidents there, and that, I can't give you the specifics, but we've had litigation involving that, and we've had a upgraded recommendation from Primex.
page 11.
Page 11. Page.
Catch basin clean out?
450, no,
Well, that one's 1,300. You guys are sneaky.
no, I was looking at 450 site development. So last year, did we leave money in there? And it looks as though it was reduced to a,
If I may?
yeah.
We did leave that. That is not to complete the project. Maybe we should have been a little bit more concise in our notes there, but I guess the district has had a longstanding desire, if you will, to develop LMS, and do, Mr. Bork may be able to fill some of this in, but there's been a long desire to take some of the property on LMS and look at developing it as a soccer field. So this, what we have in the budget for this year and what we're requesting for next year, it's a stage. It's not going to be after this year, we'll have a fully operational, functional soccer field back there. It's going to take us some time, and we're looking at actually doing a lot of the work ourselves.
Yeah, because we cut that completely last year except for $1. And
Right.
so there it is.
Why did you
Again,
cut it last year? Do you remember the rationale? 'Cause I don't.
The rationale is you can't just cut trees and make a soccer field. You have to plan it.
And
I think
de-stump
we-
it.
Yeah, and I think we thought of also the capacity the town has added for soccer fields.
So then the rationale should be the same
It's not
for this
enough.
year.
Ray, if you're saying that the capacity of the town right now for soccer fields is enough, it's not.
I didn't
No,
say they
it's-
had enough, I said the capacity of the town
Well,
had
should
added.
that not just be a issue that the voters weigh in on directly, whether or
Well,
not they
it-
want to make it a
And I
soccer
think that's what I said last year. This is a project that you can't piecemeal. If you want a decent soccer field, you have to come up with a plan, and I think that's something that the taxpayers weigh in on.
I agree.
Because I think soccer's really, really big in town, and I think if you had a complete plan, people would be on board with it. And you get your rec department on board with it.
Yep.
But I
Is there
don't
a field
see.
there now? There is a field there now, right?
There's
Kinda?
just a cleared area. I wouldn't
Yeah.
call it a field. My kids played soccer on that, and it's a cleared area. And it's been like that. We've been talking about making it a soccer field literally since the day LMS was built. But we need a plan. My feeling is you can't just say we're gonna cut trees and we're gonna,
In 10 years, we have a field.
I mean, there has to be the crowning of the turf and there's a lot that goes into it, so.
Isn't the septic, that's also the leach field out there,
Yep.
correct?
Yep, that's the septic field out there. So
Hasn't stopped school districts in the past to do something like
Well,
that.
No,
but that's
you can
part
do
of
it.
the plan.
Yeah, yep, you can do it.
Well, you could do that, but, you got two competing
There's
things.
a risk reward there.
You want to water
Well,
the
nice
grass, and keep the
but-
grass, and you want the.
If you
there's
gotta do
competing
something with that
interests there.
septic,
No,
yeah.
I completely understand. I just think that the proper way to do it is to put forth a plan and ask the voters, and not to do it in a stealth manner.
Yeah, put it on a warrant.
So, again, I think I may have even been the one that made the motion last year, but I'll
Do it again.
make it again this year to reduce it by $6,499,
Second,
leaving $1. 'Cause that way, if somebody wants to donate, they can. Again, I think I just said the rationale. I think it needs to be done, but I think it needs to be done right. It needs to have a plan, and you need to get the voters behind it.
I would personally approve of a field there if it was
yeah, but it's not gonna
absolutely,
be
especially kids of that age.
$6,500. It needs to be a full detailed plan, and then you don't wanna.
And the estimates back when we were looking at, again, schools and stuff, I think a soccer field runs around $100,000 from beginning to end. So that's why I look at 6,500 is, you're not gonna get you a soccer field, even if you piecemeal it year after year after year.
And going back over what you did, because it's gonna take you so long, you're gonna have stuff growing.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of 450 site development, a reduction of $6,499, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? So 6-2, it passes. Anything else on page 11?
Not to be wise, but do you still need all the fertilizer now? I'm kidding. Some of that was for the soccer field, and that's why it went up.
Soccer field was self-fertilizing because that
Yeah.
was the leach field.
It's the greenest grass you'd ever want to see.
All right, page 12. Page 13. Page,
Can I ask a question on 12?
yep.
The
on
wood,
12.
the wood chipper,
Yes.
although that brings up some images I'll leave, whatever. Is that gonna be used, it says for swale cleanup week?
Right.
You have a week dedicated to swale cleanup? Is that for the prisoners as well?
That is the prisoners.
Okay, so you're renting a wood chipper for the prisoners?
Right, we
Chip
again.
the prisoners.
No, we don't chip the,
Takes care of the overhead.
No, I just, because it struck me cleanup week, and I'm trying to,
yeah, no, that
Okay,
is Hillsborough County, and we need to go out and rent a rather large wood chipper because of what we're doing out there.
Are they allowed to run piece of equipment like that?
yeah.
No. We have to put our folks out there to actually run the equipment. They can only bring it.
You just see one
They
guy
can
throwing
haul
the
the
other guy in there.
trees.
It's-
Yeah, they
Sticks,
haul it
they
to
can-
what do you call it, whatever that,
$3,000 for a week for a wood chipper, though?
No, that's for the prisoners too.
that's where the prisoners do it.
They're not even gonna feel like prisoners after you done with them.
All right, page 13.
It's good, I'm happy.
Page 14. Page 15. Page 16.
Page 16. I'd move line 430, repairs and maintenance, from $30,000 to zero.
Second.
I prefer to see that as a warrant article.
It would be in line with what we did with the parking lot last year,
Playground.
playground, yep.
Parking lot was 2 years ago.
That was the same situation, wasn't it?
Yes.
Warrant articles.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of 430 repairs and maintenance, a reduction of $30,000, leaving zero in that line, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? 6-0, it passes.
Anybody who drives 3A in the morning should be in favor of that.
And it's not to say that we don't support it, we just don't support it in the budget in that way.
Well, it's just something that the taxpayers can weigh in on,
And
and
we're talking, this is the road, because I drove it
Yeah.
just the other day going,
It's half,
it's what's going around the parking lot, in between the parking lot and the
School.
Right, I don't even think that's that bad.
so page 17. And that is the end of
Oh, it must be wide, okay, that's
I've been
different.
repaired.
building and
and
grounds.
I have a
The
four-wheel
curbing
drive
is
that
in
got
terrible
stuck.
shape, and the sidewalk is, sidewalks like this. It's your business, you know that. It's
All
a
right.
mess over there. Yeah.
So,
problem.
presentations, human resources, HR.
Yeah, I'm about ready to.
And page 1. Recruiting advertising, $400 increase. Any rationale behind the?
That's guess. I mean, I don't know what else to say is, you know, recruiting has become, we've become more aggressive in our recruiting. As you may know, Madam Chair, that typically schools put ads in ed jobs at no charge. But we've had to, even this year, we're finding we need to reach out other than conventional advertising to recruit. This isn't just for permanent replacement, this is for, we just had a discussion today at the admin level on substitute teachers. So we're putting ads in other resources, other media, to reach out. We've had issues with, again, nurse subs and classroom subs since the 3 years that I've been here. So I think the district has taken a more aggressive position to start advertising in other media.
Page 2 is just a recap of page one, basically.
Right there. Total page.
Business, the business department.
If you want, I can go through some of the highlights. Seem I'm rather intimate with this. This is near and dear to my heart, this section here.
Yeah, all I have to do is find it. Business, there we go. All right, page one.
If I may, Madam Chair, the dues and fee line, you see the 1,200 with zero history on that. That is that was part of the miscellaneous line there. That, again, one of the objectives we had in budget development for the 2017 budget was to reduce and, in fact, eliminate as many of the miscellaneous lines as we possibly could. So that's why there's no history, if you will, but that's not a new expenditure for the district.
Business finance.
No, I got it.
Page two. And that's the end of business. Transportation. I have a blank. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is, I just put it in the wrong place. So, how many buses do we have now?
9.
9 buses.
Has that worked out okay?
For some buses. Not for my kid's bus. Has the most kids on it and it takes the longest.
How long did it take?
Well, the early bell's 10 minutes to 3. He's home normally around 3:35. Last stop.
We pushed a number of routes. Biggest effect areas of the 3 campuses has been GMS. Some of the LMS, but
Can you tell me about the voc ed transportation?
Sure.
What, have we changed? We're not going to Nashua now?
right.
Tell me what's going on there and why how this cost came about.
A little background on voc ed from last year. As you recall, we had as you can see, the actual for 2015 was over $87,000. Problem is that we had students, we have it's called an area agreement, which is our CTE program. When a student opts to attend a CTE program, our area included Nashua. So most of our students were at Nashua, as well as some of them were at Alvern as well. The problem we had 2 years ago was trying to get those students back and forth from Nashua, because it didn't coincide with our ability to use first student as we're contractually obligated with them. We actually have in our first student contract, it's called a shuttle service. So when they're done, if you, for instance, in the morning, when they bring those 9 buses in, to get students utilizing those 9 buses, back and forth to Nashua, that was the easy piece. Where it became difficult is we had students needing to get over to Nashua at 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m., when we didn't have a bus available from first student, so we had to contract out, the guidance department had to contract out with a third party, if you will, outside of our normal, regular transportation contract. That drove up our costs substantially, because now, instead of the shuttle rate, and you can see that, and by the way, that's, the shuttle rate is $34.39 per shuttle. I mean, we were looking at a company having to bring a whole bus in and charge us for that whole bus to be here. So obviously, from a cost of $34 per shuttle, we were looking at $200-some odd per bus. So that needed to be managed, and I can, so what's taken place since that $87,000 to today, and our costs are still high, but we've made, the district is negotiating, you may have heard the high school principal and the guidance director, they're negotiating a new area agreement with Pinkerton. and we're still going to utilize Alverin, because we still have a fair number of students, but after this year, no more students will be going over to Nashua. Nashua will no longer, that's after we have been able to negotiate out of the area agreement. So today, we still have a contract
Right.
with Nashua, but for the most part, the students, I think the guidance department reported out to the school board that we had some students that started as juniors, we wanted to allow them to finish their program at Nashua this year, which they're doing. So, as a result of all of this, we've been able to better manage the times in which students need to go back and forth to both Alverin now and Pinkerton. We have a lot of students who we're highly promoting students to self-transport, which our policy allows them to do. So we have a fair number of students, and that's not going to always happen, but the maximum exposure we'll have to get them over on the timelines that we need to get them over to Pinkerton and to Alverin, it appears today, and we're doing it right now, that we're going to be able to use the shuttle service for a student. So we're not going to need to go out and utilize outside third-party provider, which, again, drove that cost up.
Right,
Just crazy number.
okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, the thought was, if we went to Pinkerton, that it would
Right.
bring down the transportation cost,
Right,
and probably the voc ed cost too, but we'll get to that in another section.
right.
So the 48,000 is based upon,
Transporting students to Alverin and Pinkerton,
right,
utilizing first student shuttle at that 34, 39
Yeah.
per shuttle.
and that's independent of the number of kids that are going to Pinkerton or...
Correct.
or to
Correct.
Alverin.
You know,
Matter of
we could
right.
have students opt out of the program altogether, and the problem with that, problematic, is whether we have 1 or 20 students,
Still need a bus.
we have to accommodate when they're, depending on what vocational program they're utilizing at Pinkerton or Alverin. And again, I think the awareness, and I'll give a lot of credit to the guidance director, Mrs. Callen.
Did a good job.
She's done a great job.
Yep.
Not only working the students, I mean, the population of the students, number of students that are opting into the CTE program has increased over even my short time here. So I think it was just Bill making awareness of the critical management that we needed to take a look at, and she's done a great job with that.
Okay, so next year will really be the first year that we know what it's actually costing us to do this.
Right, we should have a real good
Handle on that.
indication, yep. as
Because in
to-
the past, we used to overfund this thing and...
Right.
except
It
for
was a
last
bit,
year.
for lack of a better phrase, a little helter-skelter, as kids were going, coming,
Yeah.
going, coming, and we were responsible to shuttle them. And I didn't realize, and I actually took a day to go over to Nashua and try to get back here at around 11 o'clock. It's not easy. So consequently, there's another unintended consequence of us not being able to get the kids back in time for their next class, and that kind of kicked into the concept of the sixth period to pick up those kids that were missing the academic side, because it was just taking us way too long to get out of Nashua and get the kids back here to Campbell.
All right, CHS.
You know, it's gonna take a long while to get through this.
No, we're just gonna go page for page.
Pardon?
You're just going page to page.
I suggest we put it off to the next meeting.
I think it's too much for the next one. I think it's too much for the next one.
The
I mean,
next,
if we're gonna do what we've been doing, we're just going page for page, and you're gonna be looking at it a little bit more intensely next week. There's
so,
only really a couple of changes, major changes.
If you want to run through them, that's fine with me.
yeah, I was just gonna say, what we have on schedule for December 3rd is, obviously, any actions for the ones we're doing right now, which would include CHS or not. Presentations next time are special services, salary and benefits, and food service. So it's up to the committee if you want to move CHS off, and special services, salary, benefits, food service, or do it tonight.
I'm looking at the people that are here. I mean, I don't work, so I can, it's different to me.
I'm okay going through it now,
All right. Page 1.
and I do work.
Yeah, early.
Page 1,
Page 1.
contracted services, 321. 2014, $630. 2015, $144. I don't know what we spent year-to-date on this one. $1,000 budgeted? We're not making cuts tonight, but,
Through the chair, again, we're looking to have the CHS principal, I know the guidance director is planning
Yeah,
on
I'm
coming
just-
as well. So to
Let you
the
know.
extent that I think we're well aware of some of the questions you're probably going to have, maybe we can for the sake of time, and it's only a suggestion on my part, that maybe we can kind of give you some highlights of the budget, and I think we'll, certainly the folks coming in 2 weeks after the holiday, will be better prepared to answer those questions for you.
Okay. Repairs and maintenance. I didn't think we still had 2 pianos at CHS. I know we used to have a grand piano that had a cracked board and had to be scrapped and not used anymore, so didn't realize we still had 2 pianos.
Again, I don't mean to be redundant in my response, but I don't know.
Okay.
And again, the folks that are coming in 2 weeks, I'm sure can answer it in 30 words or less.
Okay.
I can tell you, I hear one all the time. Whether it's 2, I just don't know.
Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5.
Excuse me.
Page 6.
why did 430 go up? We've been spending $800 on an annual basis, it's up to $1,700 now. Don't have to answer, Frank. Next
Yeah, but I
2
think I know the answer. I'm going to wait for the PE director. I think I do know the answer for that one, Bill, but I would, again, defer it to when the athletic director is here.
Page 7. Are there babies in here?
Nope,
No babies?
they're all resting.
Can I tell you a quick funny story about the babies? And I really, in the sake of time, I just today was talking to one of the second shift custodians, and he walked by the fax room, heard a baby crying. We just had him reprogrammed. Actually, it's a very specialized individual. She comes in, she programs the babies, and you can program to, when the kiddos take them home, if they're gonna wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning with the diaper change requirement. Well, I guess Ron heard the baby crying. So he actually went in because he wasn't sure what it was. You know, again, this is a big building, right? Goes in and the baby's crying and he's not sure what it needs to take place, so he left a note. The baby was crying at 9:45, wasn't sure what to do, needs to be reprogrammed. He just told me that today. It was a funny story. But I guess it was funny. Yeah, it'd be that. I thought it was kind of funny. Maybe
He didn't change the diaper, huh?
I was thinking, he didn't like do something.
No,
You know, I guess anybody that's watching, we have to let them know, these are like doll babies.
Yeah.
These-
Like, right, okay.
There was no kid locked in the
Okay,
car.
because we were talking about, you heard a baby crying and you just
Well,
left
that's
a note
why he
at home
went in.
tonight, okay?
But Chris, you're wrong, they are real babies.
Mechanical baby that
Because
was.
you've cut the fake babies so many times, we had to get real babies and put them in there.
So just so people watching know.
Mechanical
For the
babies.
record.
Right,
okay?
mechanical.
It's a mechanical baby.
Totally mechanical. Nothing human about them.
All right, page 8. Page 9. Page 10. So we had a pretty significant increase in math supplies. Well, all right, double, but
Didn't know they still made TI calculators.
Yeah.
yeah. Page 11.
Page 10, real quick, just back up the top. There's a cement mixer, wheelbarrow, and hoe and shovel, kind of equipment additional under the regular education programs.
It's one of those things, like, this is what you're gonna be doing if you don't study.
I was just curious, who's actually gonna ask that question, like,
That's tech ed. That's
Oh, tech ed,
that's
okay.
tech ed.
Yeah.
Just to bring a little
That was-
clarity to it, we're not, yeah, that's our tech ed department.
just didn't make any sense in context.
I hope it does now.
It does, thank you.
Page, did we do page 11? Page 11,
Yeah, we're on 21.
No, I'm
I thought we were at 37.
page
And we're gonna be on
12.
37 in about 5 minutes.
Page 13,
If I may, Madam Chair, the supplies, CHS Science supplies, the increase there, substantial increase, obviously, is directly related, as you see in the comments, to the new Project Lead the Way program.
And very similar to GMS and LMS.
Correct.
As far as the whole program being implemented.
What page you on?
Page
It's on page 13.
So, yeah, the bottom,
Half of it.
2,000, 20, like 2,500 is there. Page 14.
Mhm.
734, equipment additional. For, oh, that's also science. Okay, all right. Fifteen. Hmm. 16. Seventeen.
Yeah, when we meet again, let's have a discussion about the voc ed tuition and how those numbers were developed, supported, et cetera, okay?
Sure, thank you.
So there's equipment additional also for Project Lead the Way. I thought we were already doing Project Lead the Way at the high school and we were adding it to GMS and LMS. Am I wrong?
I don't believe so. I'll defer to the superintendent on that one.
I'd have to actually check, because I think we are doing Project Lead the Way at the high school, but let me respond. a little
Already,
more
yeah.
clearly. That's
So
next
when
week.
they come, they can just give us an update about Project Lead the Way,
Right.
the history at LMS, I mean, the history at Kimball High School and what the
Absolutely.
new equipment's for.
So,
Absolutely.
Bill, was your question, what was this question relative to? 734? All right, 'cause my question on 734 would be, are those going to be school-issued pads, or are the kids taking them home to use them late? You know, are the kids keeping them? We need to replace them every year, or are those going to be school equipment that gets?
Anything in our budget relative to equipment is school
Yeah,
Okay.
equipment.
yeah.
They may take them home.
Well, no,
They're still
clearly they'll
school
take it.
equipment.
They become
Calculator
assets
home. I
of
wanna make
the,
sure it's not
of
the
the- they become
one-to-one.
assets of the school district. Anything in an operating budget that is funded
Okay.
through taxpayer dollars is school property.
In the one-to-one pilot program, the student paid for the,
No, I know,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're not slowly moving that way
we are slowly moving that way.
towards taxpayer funding.
Page 19, dues and fees co-curricular, what is $7,000 for advisor bus transfers to events? Move to appropriate budget lines. This funding request is in keeping with the original format.
And supported by those for the community. What was the last one?
Oh, first robotics.
Robotics.
Oh, it's the robotics, okay. So we're adding robotics, basically.
No, it's by paying for the kit and everything else.
No, they used to fundraise all of it. This appears
Right.
though it's now,
I believe if I may, Madam Chair, the board made a decision, I want to say 2 years ago, to start
what it is.
rolling in some of the costs
Mhm.
of the robotics program into the general fund operation of the district.
John York made the motion at deliberative session to do that.
Correct.
That's not one I'm gonna start cutting, so.
All right, page 20, 21. 22.
Wait a minute. Page 20, just let you know, I'll have a question about game officials, whether that's a good number or not.
Which one, Bill, I'm sorry?
Game.
Game officials.
Game officials, got it?
Page 20.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Typically, it's overfunded, so.
Yep.
Unless everybody goes to States.
We do. All right, 22, we've already done.
22, 22,
23.
22, 22, 22.
Okay, what's on 22?
Wait a minute. I'll have a similar question on.
Don't say the porta potty, Bill.
On, pardon?
Don't say the porta potty.
Don't say what?
Porta potty.
No, I'm talking 610 supplies.
Okay.
That's another one that typically is over-requested. Okay?
Got it.
No, you can have a porta potty.
We're actually cutting that out, but I'll leave that for another evening.
23. 24. 890 miscellaneous.
That's an error.
That's an error, Madam Chair. In fact, Mr. Bork pointed that out to us, that we've had some systematic glitches, and that is a highlight of one of our systematic glitches, because this report being Cognos, similar to an Excel spreadsheet. So we need to fix that, but the $15,000 budget increase is incorrect, will affect the bottom line. So we'll give you folks, we'll send it out hopefully, if not by this week, certainly first by next week, so you'll have it.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
890 miscellaneous, bottom of 24. Apparently, there's a negative number in 2016, which makes it look like there's a $15,000 increase in
Okay.
617.
Right.
There would be if you're going from negative 14,000 to
The
positive.
math is correct, the effect is incorrect. So,
Yeah. 25. 26.
The total self-funded is 31,490. Right? 31,490? Now, is that backed up by revenue?
Dollar for dollar.
Do I see it somewhere in here?
Yeah.
Where?
It's in tuition.
Where?
Tuition.
Why don't I find tuition here? There we go.
It's under local.
I got it.
Local revenue.
110,000. Okay.
That's part of it.
What else is in there?
Preschool tuition, I'd have to look to what the breakdown is, but
Okay. So that's just a wash then?
that's a dollar for dollar expenditure.
27.
I'll have the same question on line 330, but I'm really looking for a global reduction on line 330 eventually anyway, so. The actuals don't track with the request.
28.
Back to 27, I'm sorry. Again, when we meet in 2 weeks, let's have a good discussion on the 561 tuition account and how that 14.9 was developed and whether that's reasonable or not.
28. 29. 30. 31. 32. 32.
Account 550 looks out of line.
$33. $34.
34, transportation 519. The 58,943 is out of line. It's overfunded.
$35, which is part of 34.
Same, I'm sorry, what page are you on?
Well, we're sort of 34, 35.
Okay.
And 36.
36, same thing on the 519 transportation co-curricular. That's 10,596, it's probably higher than they need there.
And 37 is last. All right, that's it for the school district for tonight. Town business, so because I had failed to forward the tax setting information from the town. Just, were there any questions on that? Tax rate breakdown, the current, the 2015 rate is $20.38. The breakdown is municipal, $3.86. County, $1.24. Education is $13.05, and state education is $2.23, which totals like $20.38.
What was interesting was the way the valuation went up as a result of revaluation.
Yeah.
Went up big
And
numbers.
Yeah.
Where's the valuation?
Well, it went from,
I might wish everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
Yes, good night.
Thank you.
Have a good Thanksgiving, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give you a second, Cindy.
Yeah, because
The valuation is $880 million, $881
there it is.
million. Okay?
right.
And the year before that, it was $823 million. And that's the revaluation took place. I mean, normally it doesn't go up by that kind of number.
That's a significant increase, I don't understand. I think your point, Bill, and I agree with you, is that's a significant increase I don't understand.
Yeah, well, didn't the whole town get revaluated?
That was the
Yeah,
last
but
year.
what was our equalization ratio, like 3% or something?
The what?
Our equalization ratio was 3%, so it, I don't think it's, what you're saying is $80 million.
Yeah, right. When I saw it, I was shocked, so.
Yeah.
So there's a valuation with utilities and a valuation without utilities.
Right. And the with utilities is 880
Yep.
million, okay?
Yeah. Oh, and it does have prior year.
But the one
And the
that
prior
is
year was
used,
at 823,
the one that's used by the town,
is with utility.
yes. There's two of them,
As
one
is the
without and
school.
with, and we use the one with.
You use the one with the utilities?
And the school does also for the operating budget piece,
Okay.
not the town tax, school, state tax piece.
The total tax, $20.38? I can send this to you if you want. All right, any more discussion, comments? And, all right, other, anything else that,
We're meeting 2 weeks from today is our meeting, right?
yes,
I
December
know we
3rd.
have a full schedule. Is there any consideration to starting a half hour earlier?
Or an hour earlier?
Or an hour earlier?
3 hours earlier?
I'm lucky I can
Me
make
too.
it here at 7, so.
I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I don't care, I'll stay here all night, but
We need
rather
to,
not.
I will not.
so, tonight, Human Resources, Business and Transportation, they're all single-page budgets. The one that's gonna take the bulk of time is CHS. And then we have, special education presentation, salaries, benefits presentation, and food service presentation.
I'm saying, the presentations don't take that long, because you're gonna be doing your cuts the following week. Well, you can cut whenever you want, but I'm just saying, I mean, that's the way it's been going.
And
We flipped through the pages, in 15 minutes we did CHS, and then we'll do the same thing with the next one.
and
Yeah, but, okay.
so the
You have sped right now, you have all your questions, and you're gonna be ready for her when she comes in.
The following week, December 10th, the only thing we have on the agenda at this point is then to take action on special services, salary and benefits, and food service, and we're done. So December 10th, depending on discussion, should not be as long, there'll be no presentation.
Well, I would hope that we'll have a decent discussion when we sit down to discuss the sped budget. Okay, and it's not gonna just be flipping through the pages on that budget. And somebody better be here that can answer the questions that come up when we go through it.
And that will be the December 10th meeting when we make our decisions. There'll be,
I'm
although that is
suggesting
the
that that's not
one,
the time to do it, Cindy.
yes, that is the one budget that it's probably better to get the questions done ahead of time.
Well, if you wanna submit questions, I mean, you have a couple of weeks right now.
Can she just come? That's what
She'll
you're
be,
getting
she'll be
at,
coming
right?
on the 10th, just like all the rest of the administration staff has, they've come on
Well,
the second.
If anything, I've learned this year that we get that active discussion on the second time we sit down.
Yeah.
Okay? We could have had that the first time we sat down.
That's the way we've been doing it. To be honest with you, Bill, if you even want to talk about active, I actually think this entire process should be done in one day. I think we should pick no, I'm serious, a lot of towns do that. They take one day, a Saturday, you sit down with all the school administration, and you just do your budget and just get it done.
Well, I can come up with a budget number in one day. I can do that in half a day.
What's that?
I can come up with a budget number in a half a day.
You already have a budget number.
Then I
It
can come up with
didn't even
one.
take you half a day. So that's what I'm saying, I mean, the process is just, this is the process that we're doing,
Yep.
that's all.
All right,
Fine.
so, yep.
look, if this committee wants to request that the sped director come on the first day, you have the right to request. They can
That's-
deny it, but
That's okay, Chris.
it's whatever you want.
It's
I
all right.
mean,
It's all right.
okay,
All right.
that's fine.
All right, so there's nothing else,
When are we doing
town?
salaries and benefits?
Salaries and benefits, the presentation is next, the next meeting, December 3rd.
Okay?
And when do all warrant articles get submitted?
That would be December 10th,
I don't know.
based on,
Has the town done theirs yet? Will their town be December 10th also?
no, the town, we've already run through the preliminary, which is mostly placeholders. So that's gonna be probably the major discussion, then, the town, we do January 6th.
Okay.
And then the school district will do our final, and by then, they ought to have whatever warrant articles solidified by then.
Hopefully.
Committee comments, old business, I
If
think
I
we're
if
kind
I
of.
could, I only have one more thing as far as the school, for those of you who aren't aware, that the school board last evening voted for Jim O'Neill to be our superintendent for next year. So
Ah,
he'll remain on for an additional year.
Yeah, it was just.
okay. Interesting, the last time we had an intern, we did that too with Elaine Cutler. She
Yeah.
came on originally as an interim, after retiring, and decided that this was a place to stay, and the board decided that this is the person we wanted, so congratulations to the board for
So he's
making
agreed.
that short and sweet.
Yeah. So he'll stay on for an additional year and then help us with the search for the new superintendent.
Do you want to tell them about Deliberate?
Oh, the date? Yep.
Yeah, I was actually just I downloaded all of the dates, and I wasn't sure who was going first and who was going second.
We're gonna be going the 6th,
Just
That's Saturday.
February 6th?
10 a.m.
February 6th, 10 a.m. So the town then is the 30th?
We don't have any other choice.
You can do it
No, you
six.
do, you can do a Friday night, you do midweek, I
Please
mean,
don't.
I know.
We did that once.
And
I'm sorry, January 30th is the town, right?
Oh, we can do it both the same day.
Yeah, you could.
I'm assuming the town is also gonna be in the morning? Or has that decision not been made yet?
I haven't been at a selectmen's meeting for the past
Couple
3
weeks.
years.
All right, so
So whatever.
we'll leave that floating.
So I
Anything,
don't know the answer to the question.
anything else tonight? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned till December 3rd. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving, a safe holiday, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
God.